How to be happy, fulfilled, and wildly successful in your life. Have you ever felt like you're running on a treadmill, chasing a version of happiness and success that always seems just out of reach? You're not alone. We're often given a map for life that doesn't lead to the destinations we truly desire. This book is your new map. It's a simple, practical guide to help you redefine what a rich life means to you and then build it piece by piece. We'll explore the real, actionable steps to unlock a life filled with genuine joy, deep fulfillment, and your own unique brand of wild success. Your journey to a more vibrant life starts now. Before we begin, I have a question for you. If you could not fail, what is one thing you would do? Think about it for a moment and share your answer in the comments below. There are no wrong answers, and your dream might just inspire someone else. Chapter 1. The Blueprint of Your Mind, the Foundation of Everything. Let's start with a story about two people, Alex and Ben. Both worked at the same marketing company, and both were given the exact same challenge: lead a new project for a difficult, high-stakes client. It was a huge opportunity, the kind of project that could define a career. Alex felt a surge of panic. His mind immediately started listing all the reasons he wasn't ready. He had never managed a project this large. The client was known for being demanding. What if he failed? The thought of failure was paralyzing. He saw the project not as an opportunity, but as a test, a final judgment on his capabilities. In his mind, you either had what it takes or you didn't. He believed that talent and intelligence were fixed traits, like eye color. You were born with a certain amount, and that was that. This belief, this quiet, often unnoticed assumption about the world, shaped every action he took. He became cautious, hesitant to try new strategies for fear they might not work. He avoided asking for feedback because he saw it as criticism of his core abilities. His primary goal became not to fail, to simply survive the project without looking incompetent. He was operating from what we call a fixed mindset. Ben, on the other hand, felt a different kind of surge, excitement mixed with a healthy dose of nervousness. His first thought wasn't about failure, but about growth. He thought, wow, this is going to be tough. I'm going to learn so much. He knew he didn't have all the answers. He had never managed a project this large either, but he saw that as the entire point. He believed that his abilities weren't set in stone. He believed he could learn, adapt, and grow through effort and experience. Challenges, in his view, were not threats, but opportunities to get smarter and more capable. This is what we call a growth mindset. Ben eagerly sought feedback from his team and his superiors. He wasn't afraid to say, "I'm not sure how to approach this. Let's brainstorm some ideas." When his first proposal to the client was met with heavy criticism, he didn't see it as a personal failure. He saw it as valuable data. He thanked the client for their directness and went back to his team with a new energy, saying, "Okay, that approach didn't work. Let's figure out what will." He was relentless, not because he was a genius, but because he believed his effort was the path to genius. This fundamental difference in mindset is the single most important concept we will cover in this entire book. It is the foundation upon which everything else is built: your happiness, your fulfillment, and your success. Before you learn any new productivity hack, before you set any ambitious goals, before you try to change any habit, you must first understand the operating system running in your mind. Is it one that sees limits everywhere, or one that sees possibilities? This isn't just positive thinking or feel-good motivation. This is about the core belief system that dictates how you interpret your entire life. The idea was pioneered by a brilliant researcher named Carol Dweck from Stanford University. She spent decades studying thousands of people, from young children in classrooms to CEOs in boardrooms, to understand why some people thrive in the face of challenges while others crumble. Her discovery was profound. It wasn't about talent or intelligence, it was about mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe their basic qualities, like their intelligence or talent, are simply fixed traits. They spend their time documenting their intelligence or talent instead of developing them. They believe that talent alone creates success, without effort. They're wrong. People with a growth mindset, in contrast, believe that their most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Brains and talent are just the starting point. This view creates a love of learning and a resilience that is essential for great accomplishment. When you understand these two mindsets, you start to see them everywhere. You see it in the student who avoids a challenging math class because they believe they're just not a math person. That's a fixed mindset. You see it in the artist who spends hours practicing a new technique, frustrated but determined, because they believe that practice is the path to mastery. That's a growth mindset. You see it in the employee who hides a mistake for fear of looking incompetent, versus the employee who owns up to it immediately and says, "Let's figure out how we can learn from this." The first is trying to preserve an image of being perfect, a classic fixed mindset trait. The second is focused on development, the hallmark of a growth mindset. The internal monologue of a fixed mindset is full of judgment. It sounds like this: "I can't do that, I'm not smart enough. If I have to try hard, it must mean I'm not good at it. What if I fail? Everyone will think I'm a fraud. I'm just not a natural leader." It's a constant effort to prove yourself, to look good, and to protect your ego from the harsh verdict of failure. The pressure is immense because every single task becomes a test of your fundamental worth. Now listen to the internal monologue of a growth mindset. It's full of questions and possibilities. It sounds like this: "I'm not sure how to do this yet. What can I learn to figure it out? This is really hard. My brain must be growing. I failed. Okay, what's a different strategy I can try? She's so good at that. I should ask her how she learned to do it." It's a voice that is less concerned with looking smart and more concerned with getting smarter. It understands that effort is not a sign of weakness. It's the ingredient that activates your ability. This simple shift in belief is the difference between feeling stuck and feeling empowered. It's the difference between fragility and resilience. You might be thinking, "This is a nice idea, but is it real? Can you really change something so fundamental about yourself?" The answer is a resounding yes, and we have the science to prove it. For a long time, we believed the adult brain was largely fixed. After a certain age, we thought the connections were set, and that was that. But in the last few decades, the field of neuroscience has made a revolutionary discovery called neuroplasticity. This is a scientific term for a beautifully simple idea. Your brain is malleable. It can change. It can reorganize itself both physically and functionally throughout your entire life in response to your experiences, thoughts, and actions. Imagine your brain is like a vast, dense forest. When you think a thought or perform an action for the first time, it's like bushwhacking a new trail. It's difficult, it takes a lot of effort, and the path is barely visible. But if you walk that same path again the next day, it's a little easier. The twigs and leaves are already pushed aside. If you walk it every day for a month, you'll start to wear a clear path through the undergrowth. Walk it every day for a year, and you'll have a wide, well-trodden road. This is exactly how the connections in your brain work. The connections between your brain cells, or neurons, are called synapses. When you learn something new, you create new synaptic connections. When you practice a skill, you strengthen those connections. The more you use a neural pathway, the stronger and more efficient it becomes. The saying "neurons that fire together wire together" perfectly captures this idea. Let's look at a real-world example. In a famous study, scientists in London studied the brains of taxi drivers. To become a licensed London cabbie, you have to memorize the knowledge, which is an incredibly complex map of over 25,000 streets and thousands of points of interest within the city. It's a monumental feat of memory that takes years to master. When the scientists scanned the drivers' brains, they found something remarkable. The part of the brain responsible for spatial memory, the hippocampus, was significantly larger in the taxi drivers than in the control group. Furthermore, the longer a driver had been on the job, the bigger that part of their brain was. Their brains had physically changed to adapt to the demands of their job. They weren't born with a special map brain. They developed it through years of deliberate effort and practice. This is neuroplasticity in action. What does this mean for you? It means that your mind is not a fixed entity. It is a dynamic living system that you are actively shaping every single day. When you practice a new skill, you are literally building new roads in your brain. When you challenge a negative thought and choose a different one, you are weakening an old, unhelpful path and starting to forge a new, more positive one. This is not just a metaphor. You are the architect of your own mind. This scientific truth is the ultimate empowerment. It dismantles the entire foundation of the fixed mindset. The belief that I'm just not good at this is scientifically inaccurate. The more accurate statement is, I haven't built and strengthened the neural pathways for this skill yet. This brings us to one of the most practical and powerful tools for rewiring your brain, the power of the word yet. It's a tiny 3-letter word, but it has the power to completely transform your internal monologue and put the principles of a growth mindset and neuroplasticity into immediate action. Carol Dweck often talks about a high school in Chicago where students didn't receive a failing grade. Instead, if they didn't pass a course, they received the grade of not yet. Think about the psychological difference. The word fail is a judgment. It's a dead end. It says you tried and you were found lacking. The story is over. But not yet implies something completely different. It tells you that you are on a learning curve. It creates a path forward. It turns a verdict into a process. This is a tool you can start using right now, in this very moment. The next time you catch yourself thinking a fixed mindset thought, simply add the word yet to the end of it. I can't do this becomes I can't do this yet. I don't understand becomes I don't understand yet. I'm not good at public speaking becomes I'm not good at public speaking yet. This isn't working becomes this isn't working and yet. This isn't a trick, it's a reframe. It acknowledges the present reality. The struggle is real, you're not there yet, but it introduces the promise of the future. It's a bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It instantly shifts you from a state of helplessness to a state of possibility. It primes your brain to look for solutions, to engage in the process of learning, and to see effort as a necessary part of that process. Using the word yet is like a daily workout for your growth mindset. At first, it might feel a little forced or unnatural, but remember neuroplasticity. The more you do it, the more you use that new neural pathway, the easier and more automatic it will become. Eventually, your default response to a challenge will not be, I can't, but how can I yet? Imagine a young woman named Sarah who decides she wants to learn how to play the guitar. She buys a guitar, pulls up a tutorial online, and tries to play her first chord. Her fingers are clumsy. The strings buzz. It sounds awful. Her initial fixed mindset thought is, I'm terrible at this. I'm just not musical. This is a critical moment, a fork in the road. If she follows that fixed mindset, she will likely put the guitar in its case, push it into the back of her closet, and conclude that she's not one of the talented ones. The story ends there. But what if Sarah has learned about the power of yet? In that moment of frustration, she catches herself. She takes a breath and consciously amends her thought. I'm terrible at this. Yet. This small change does something profound. It gives her permission to be a beginner. It reframes the awful sound not as evidence of her lack of talent, but as an expected part of the learning process. It encourages her to try again. So she does. She practices for 15 minutes. The next day she practices for another 15 minutes. It's still hard, but maybe one chord sounds a little cleaner. The path in her brain is being formed. A week later, she can switch between 2 chords, slowly but surely. A month later, she can play a simple 3-chord song. Every time she felt frustrated and wanted to quit, she would remind herself, I can't play this song smoothly as yet. The word yet was her anchor, the thing that kept her coming back to the practice, strengthening those neural connections, until one day she could play the song without even thinking about it. She didn't magically become musical, she built the skill one yet at a time. Now it's time to move from understanding to action. It's not enough to just know about the growth mindset. You have to actively cultivate it. This brings us to our first actionable exercise, which I call the mindset check. This is a 3-day challenge designed to make you aware of your current mindset and begin the process of rewiring it. You will need a notebook and a pen or a notes app on your phone. Day 1 is the observer. For this entire day, your only job is to notice and listen. Pay close attention to the voice in your head, your internal monologue. Your goal is to catch your fixed mindset thoughts as they arise. Don't judge them. Don't try to change them, just observe them. Become a scientist of your own mind. What triggers these thoughts? Is it when you make a mistake? when you face a difficult task, when you see someone else succeed. Write them down exactly as they appear in your head. Your list at the end of the day might look something like this. I made a typo in that important email. I'm so stupid. My boss gave me some constructive feedback. She probably thinks I'm incompetent. I tried that new recipe and it was a disaster. I'm just a terrible cook. I went to the gym and could only run for 5 minutes. I'm so out of shape and I'll never be fit. Everyone else seems to understand this concept in the meeting, but I'm completely lost. I'm not smart enough for this job. Be honest and thorough. The simple act of noticing is the first and most crucial step toward change. You cannot change a thought pattern that you are not aware of. Day 2 is the rephraser. Today, you're going to take your list of fixed mindset thoughts from yesterday and become a translator. Sit down with your list and one by one, rewrite each statement into a growth-oriented statement. This is where you put the principles we've discussed into practice. You're going to challenge the judgments, focus on the process, and embrace the power of yet. Let's take the examples from yesterday and rephrase them. I made a typo in that important email. I'm so stupid becomes, I made a mistake in that email. It's a good reminder to slow down and proofread more carefully next time. I can learn from this. Notice the shift from a judgment about your identity, I am stupid, to an observation about your action, I made a mistake, and a focus on future strategy. My boss gave me some constructive feedback. She probably thinks I'm incompetent, becomes, my boss gave me some valuable feedback. This is a great opportunity for me to learn what she's looking for and improve my skills. This reframe sees feedback not as a personal attack, but as a gift. I tried that new recipe and it was a disaster. I'm just a terrible cook becomes, that recipe didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. I'm still learning how to cook, and I can try a different approach next time. What could I do differently? This shifts the focus from a permanent label, terrible cook, to a state of learning. I went to the gym and could only run for 5 minutes. I'm so out of shape and I'll never be fit becomes, I ran for 5 minutes today. That's a starting point. I haven't built up my endurance yet, but if I stay consistent, I can gradually increase that time. This celebrates the effort and acknowledges the journey. I'm completely lost in this meeting. I'm not smart enough for this job becomes, I don't understand this concept yet. I'm going to write down my questions and ask my colleague to explain it to me later. I am capable of learning this. Go through your entire list from day 1 and do this for every single thought. This exercise is you actively forging new neural pathways. Day 3 is the interceptor. Today, you're going to try to do the first 2 steps in real time. As you go about your day, continue to observe your thoughts. But now, as soon as you catch a fixed mindset thought, your goal is to intercept it before it can take root. Don't let it spiral. Catch it, acknowledge it, and then immediately rephrase it in your mind. You hear the thought, ugh, I'll never be able to finish this project on time. You intercept it and mentally correct it. This project is challenging, and I'm not sure how I'll finish it on time yet. I need to break it down into smaller steps and focus on one thing at a time. This will not be easy at first. You're fighting against years, maybe decades of habitual thinking. The old well-trodden neural pathways are strong, but every single time you successfully intercept and rephrase a thought, you are weakening the old path and strengthening the new one. You are casting a vote for the growth mindset. This is the real work. This is how change happens, not in one grand gesture, but in thousands of small, conscious choices you make inside your own mind. You must understand that adopting a growth mindset is not like flipping a switch. You don't just decide one day and magically never have a fixed mindset thought again. We are all a mixture of both mindsets. You might have a growth mindset about your career, believing you can learn and advance, but a fixed mindset about your artistic abilities, believing you just aren't creative. You might have a growth mindset when things are going well, but slip back into a fixed mindset as soon as you encounter a major setback. The goal is not to achieve a pure, perfect growth mindset. The goal is to cultivate awareness. The goal is to recognize when the fixed mindset is taking over, and to consciously choose the growth mindset instead. It is a practice, a discipline, and a journey, not a destination. Let's be clear, a growth mindset is not about deluding yourself. It's not about telling yourself you can do anything without effort. In fact, it's the exact opposite. A growth mindset is rooted in the belief that effort is what makes you smart. It's about facing reality, acknowledging your current limitations, and then believing in your capacity to transcend those limitations through hard work, smart strategies, and help from others. It is a profoundly realistic and practical way to approach your life. It is also the source of passion and commitment. When you believe that your efforts matter, you're more likely to put in the effort. When you see challenges as opportunities for growth, you're more likely to embrace them rather than avoid them. This creates a positive feedback loop. Effort leads to improvement, which reinforces your belief in the power of effort, which leads to more effort. This is the engine of achievement. So as we close this first chapter, I want you to remember the story of Alex and Ben. Two people, one opportunity, two vastly different outcomes, all driven by a simple belief. The world will constantly present you with challenges. You will face setbacks. You will make mistakes. You will fail. These things are not optional. They are part of the human experience. What is optional is how you interpret them. You can see them as a judgment on your innate abilities, a sign that you should give up. Or you can see them as an inevitable part of the learning process, a source of valuable information and an opportunity to get stronger, smarter, and more resilient. The blueprint of your mind is not set in stone. It is a living document and you hold the pen. You are the architect. What you believe about yourself determines what you will become. So, what will you choose to believe? Will you believe in limits, or will you believe in growth? Will you believe in the finality of failure, or in the power of yet? Your answer to that question is the foundation of everything that is to come. Choose growth. Choose the journey. Choose to believe in your own unending potential to learn, adapt, and become more than you are today. This is the first and most important step on the path to a happy, fulfilled, and wildly successful life. Chapter 2. Redefining the rich life. What does success mean to you? Imagine for a moment that you've finally done it. You've achieved everything you've been told you should want. You have the impressive job title, the corner office with the sweeping city view, the luxury car, and the big house in the right neighborhood. You've checked all the boxes on the conventional scorecard of success. People congratulate you at parties. Your family is proud. On the surface, everything is perfect. But then, in a quiet moment late at night, when the applause has faded and the distractions are gone, you feel a hollow ache. A persistent, nagging question bubbles up from a place deep inside you. Is this it? Is this all there is? This is a terrifyingly common experience. So many of us spend years, even decades, climbing a ladder only to realize when we get to the top that it was propped up against the wrong wall. We chase a version of success that was handed to us by society, by our parents, by advertising, without ever stopping to ask if it's what we truly want. This is the great success trap, and it is one of the biggest barriers to genuine happiness and fulfillment. The trap is baited with a very loud, very clear and very narrow definition of what it means to be successful. From a young age, we are bombarded with messages. Success is about more money, more prestige, more power, more followers, more possessions. It's a game of external validation, of accumulating trophies that prove our worth to the outside world. We learn to measure our lives against the highlight reels of others, and we internalize the belief that our value as a person is tied to our net worth or our job title. So we run, we hustle, we work long hours, sacrifice our health, neglect our relationships, and silence our own inner voice, all in pursuit of a prize that was chosen for us, not by us. The problem is that this version of success is a mirage. It promises fulfillment, but often delivers burnout. It promises happiness, but often leads to anxiety and emptiness. Why? Because it's a one-size-fits-all definition, and human beings are not one-size-fits-all. A life that would be deeply fulfilling for one person could feel like a cage to another. Let's tell another story. Consider a woman named Maya, a brilliant and ambitious lawyer. From the time she was a little girl, everyone told her she was destined for greatness. Her parents, both respected doctors, encouraged her to pursue a prestigious and high-paying profession. Law seemed like a perfect fit. She was smart, articulate, and competitive, So she followed the path laid out for her. She excelled in school, got into a top law school, and landed a coveted job at a high-powered corporate law firm. She worked 80-hour weeks, fueled by caffeine and the desire to prove herself. And she was good at it. She made partner in record time. She had the salary, the apartment, the respect. She had, by all external measures, achieved wild success, but she was miserable. The work felt meaningless to her. It was a constant battle of adversarial conflict, of finding loopholes and fighting over clauses in contracts. It didn't light her up, it drained her. She found herself fantasizing about her college days when she used to volunteer at an animal shelter. She remembered the simple, profound joy she felt caring for abandoned dogs, the feeling that she was making a small but real difference. But she would quickly dismiss those thoughts. "That's not a serious career," a voice in her head would say, a voice that sounded a lot like her father's. "You're a partner at one of the top law firms in the country. Don't throw that away." Maya was caught in the success trap. Her life looked incredible from the outside, but on the inside, she was starving for meaning. Her ladder was leaning against a very tall, very impressive, but very wrong wall. This chapter is about taking a deliberate pause from the climb. It's about giving yourself permission to get off the treadmill and question the direction you're running in. It's about muting the deafening noise of external expectations so you can finally hear the quiet whisper of your own heart. This is the moment where you stop asking, "What does the world want from me?" and start asking the far more important question, "What do I want from my life?" The first step in escaping the success trap is to consciously redefine what a rich life means to you. We need to expand our definition of wealth beyond the purely financial. True wealth is about so much more than money. It's about abundance in all areas of your life that matter. It's about freedom, connection, purpose, and peace of mind. It's about having a life that doesn't just look good but feels good. To help you do this, we're going to create something called your personal rich list. This is not a list of things you want to buy. It's a list of the feelings and experiences you want to have. It's an inventory of true wealth. I want you to take out that notebook again, the one from our last chapter. On a fresh page, write the heading, My Rich List. Now I'm going to give you a series of prompts. Don't overthink your answers. Just write down the first things that come to mind. Let your intuition speak. First, let's talk about time. In a truly rich life, what would your relationship with time look like? Would you have the freedom to wake up without an alarm clock? The flexibility to take a spontaneous trip? The space in your schedule to read a book in the middle of the afternoon? The ability to be fully present with your loved ones without checking your phone every 5 minutes? Write down what time wealth means to you. Perhaps it's not feeling rushed, or control over my own schedule, or long, unscheduled weekends. Next, let's consider relationships. What does relational wealth look like? Is it having a small circle of deep, authentic friendships where you can be your true self? Is it having a loving, supportive partnership? Is it having a strong connection with your family? Is it feeling like you belong to a vibrant community? Think about the quality of the connections in your life. Write down phrases like deep conversations, unconditional support, shared laughter, or feeling understood. Now let's think about your well-being. What does health wealth mean? Is it the energy to play with your kids or grandkids? The strength to hike a mountain? The peace of mind that comes from a calm, centered mind? The simple pleasure of feeling good in your own body? This includes your physical, mental, and emotional health. Write down what a truly healthy and vibrant life would feel like. Maybe it's waking up feeling rested, a mind free from anxiety, or a body that feels strong and capable. Let's move on to learning and growth, what we might call intellectual wealth. In your richest life, what are you learning? Are you mastering a new language? Learning to play that guitar we talked about? Diving deep into a subject that fascinates you, just for the joy of it? A truly rich life is one where you never stop being curious. Write down the skills you want to learn or the topics you want to explore. Becoming fluent in Spanish, learning how to paint, understanding history. Finally, let's talk about impact and purpose. What does a purposefully rich life feel like? This doesn't have to be about saving the world. It can be much smaller and more personal. Is it mentoring a younger colleague? Creating art that moves people? being a kind and present parent, contributing to a cause you believe in, volunteering in your community. Think about the feeling of making a difference, of contributing something positive beyond yourself. Write down what a life of purpose means to you. It could be helping others, creating beautiful things, or leaving my community better than I found it. Take some time with this list. Look at what you've written. This is your new scorecard. This is the blueprint for your version of a wildly successful life. You'll probably notice that money is not the central focus of this list. Money is a tool, and a very useful one at that. It can absolutely help you achieve many of the things on your list. It can buy you the freedom to control your own time. It can facilitate experiences and learning, but it is a means, not the end. The success trap convinces us that money is the goal itself. Your rich list reminds you that money is simply one tool among many for building a life that is truly wealthy in all the ways that matter. Maya, the unhappy lawyer, might create a rich list that includes things like spending time in nature every day, working with animals, deep connection with friends, and a calm mind. When she looks at that list and then looks at her 80-hour work week in a concrete skyscraper, the disconnect becomes painfully obvious. Her current life, while financially successful, is making her poor in almost every other category of richness she truly values. This realization is not a crisis, it's an awakening. It's the first step toward consciously designing a life that aligns with her own definition of success. Once you have your rich list, you have a general sense of the direction you want to go. But to make real, concrete decisions, you need a more precise compass. This brings us to the next crucial step: identifying your core values. Your core values are the fundamental beliefs that guide your actions and decisions. They are your personal, non-negotiable principles. They are the essence of who you are. When you live in alignment with your values, you feel a sense of rightness, of integrity, and of fulfillment. When you live in a way that violates your core values, you feel stressed, unhappy, and out of sync, just like Maya did. The problem is, most of us have never taken the time to consciously identify what our core values actually are. We just absorb them from our surroundings. But what is valued by your company, your culture, or even your family may not be what you value most deeply. Identifying your values is a process of excavation, of digging through the layers of shoulds and ought tos to uncover what is authentically true for you. I'm going to guide you through a simple but profound exercise to help you do just that. First, I want you to think about a time in your life when you felt truly happy and fulfilled. It could be a big moment or a small one. A time when you felt completely alive and engaged. Maybe it was a trip you took, a project you completed, a conversation you had, or a moment of quiet solitude. Close your eyes and really transport yourself back to that moment. What were you doing? Who were you with? What did it feel like? Now ask yourself, what values were being honored in that moment? For example, if your peak moment was a solo backpacking trip through the mountains, perhaps the values being honored were adventure, freedom, solitude, and nature. If your moment was completing a marathon you had trained months for, the values might have been discipline, health, and perseverance. Write down the values that were present in that happy memory. Now I want you to do the opposite. Think of a time when you felt angry, frustrated, or deeply unhappy. A time when you felt drained and out of alignment. Again, it could be a big or small moment. A job that made you miserable, a conflict with a friend, a decision you regretted. Immerse yourself in that memory for a moment. What was happening? What did it feel like? Now ask the crucial question. What core value of mine was being violated or suppressed in that situation? For instance, if you think of a time a boss took credit for your work, the value of fairness or recognition was likely being violated. If you think of a job that required you to mislead customers, the value of honesty was being trampled on. If you remember a time when you felt creatively stifled, the value of creativity or self-expression was being suppressed. Write down the values that were being dishonored in that difficult memory. By looking at both your best and worst moments, you can start to triangulate what matters most to you. You'll likely have a long list of words by now. The final step is to distill that list down to your top 3 to 5 core values. This is the hard part. You may have to make some tough choices. Is security more important to you than adventure? Is connection more important than achievement? There are no right answers, only your answers. Circle the words that resonate most deeply, the ones that feel like an essential part of who you are. These are your core values. They are your personal compass. From this day forward, you can use them to guide every decision you make. When faced with a choice, whether it's a new job offer, a new relationship, or how to spend your weekend, you can ask yourself a simple question. Which option is more in alignment with my core values? Let's go back to Maya. Let's say through this process, she identifies her core values as compassion, nature, and peace of mind. She now has a powerful tool. When her firm offers her a new case defending a large corporation accused of polluting a river, she can run it through her value filter. Does this align with compassion, nature, and peace of mind? The answer is a clear and resounding no. It would require her to work against her values, creating that familiar feeling of internal conflict and misery. Now, what if an old friend tells her about a non-profit organization that advocates for animal welfare and is looking for some pro bono legal help? She runs that through her filter. Does it align with compassion? Yes. Does it align with making a difference, a key part of her rich list? Yes. Suddenly, the path forward becomes clearer. It doesn't mean she has to quit her job tomorrow, but she now has a compass that can guide her next steps. Maybe she starts by volunteering a few hours a week. Maybe that leads to joining their board. Maybe eventually it leads her to a new career that is less financially lucrative, but infinitely richer in the ways that matter most to her. When your actions align with your values, your life begins to feel coherent and purposeful. You stop chasing ghosts and start building a reality that is deeply, authentically your own. Now you have your rich list, your vision of a truly wealthy life, and you have your core values, your personal compass to guide you there. The final piece of this foundational work is to bring it all together into a vivid, tangible vision. This is where we use the power of visualization. Many of the world's most successful athletes and performers use visualization. They mentally rehearse their performance in perfect detail, imagining the sights, sounds, and feelings of success. Their brains can't always distinguish between vivid imagination and reality, so this practice helps to create the neural pathways for success before the event even happens. We are going to do the same thing for your life with an exercise called the perfect day. I want you to find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed for at least 20 minutes. Take out your notebook again. The goal here is to write a detailed first-person present tense description of your ideal average day. This is not a fantasy vacation day. This is a perfect yet realistic Tuesday in the life you are working toward. A life that is fully aligned with your rich list and your core values. Write as if you are living it right now. Engage all of your senses. Start from the very beginning. What time do you wake up? How do you feel as you open your eyes? Are you rested and energized? What is the first thing you see? Are you in a bright, airy room? Is a loved one beside you? Describe your morning routine. What do you do for the first hour of your day? Are you meditating, journaling, exercising, or enjoying a quiet cup of coffee? Where does your work or your primary contribution fit in? What kind of work are you doing? Is it the creative, meaningful work that aligns with your values? Who are you working with? Are they collaborative, inspiring people? What does your workspace look like? How do you feel while you're working? Are you engaged, focused, and fulfilled, or are you stressed and overwhelmed? Describe your lunch break. Do you take a real break? Do you eat a healthy, delicious meal? Do you take a walk outside? What does your afternoon look like? How do you transition from your workday to your personal life? Describe your evening. How do you spend your time? Are you having dinner with your family, taking a class, working on a hobby, or meeting up with friends? Describe the conversations you're having. Describe how you feel as the day winds down. Are you feeling grateful, connected, and at peace? Be as specific and detailed as you possibly can. What clothes are you wearing? What does the air smell like? What sounds do you hear? The more vivid you can make it, the more powerful it will be. This exercise is not just a daydream, it is a creative act. You are taking the abstract concepts of your rich list and core values and translating them into a tangible reality. You are creating a mental and emotional blueprint for the life you want. This detailed vision becomes your North Star. When you have a clear picture of where you want to go, it's much easier to make daily choices that move you in that direction. When you know that your perfect day includes a peaceful morning routine, you'll be less tempted to hit snooze 3 times and scroll through social media in a panic. When you know that your perfect day includes meaningful work, you'll be more motivated to seek out or create that work. When you know your perfect day includes deep connection with loved ones, you'll be more likely to put your phone away at the dinner table. Read your perfect day description every single morning for the next week. Let it soak into your subconscious. Let it be the first thing that frames your day. This practice will start to close the gap between the life you have and the life you want. It will highlight the areas where there is a disconnect and inspire you to take small steps to bring them into alignment. Redefining success is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process of checking in with yourself, of making sure your ladder is still against the right wall. The world will always try to sell you its version of happiness. It will always be loud. Your own inner voice is often quiet. It takes deliberate practice to learn how to listen to it, but that voice is your truest guide. It knows the way to a life that is not just successful by external standards, but is deeply, soul-satisfyingly rich. Forget the generic blueprint. It's time to draw your own. Your journey to a happy, fulfilled, and wildly successful life doesn't start with chasing more. It starts with defining your enough, defining your rich, and defining your true. Your real work is not to become a success, but to become yourself. Chapter 3. The 1% Rule. Building an unstoppable you with tiny habits. Have you ever found yourself on the first day of January, filled with a volcanic eruption of motivation? This is the year, you tell yourself. This is the year you will finally get in shape, write that novel, learn that language, or start that business. In a blaze of inspiration, you make a bold, dramatic resolution. You will go from being a couch potato to a gym warrior, working out for 2 hours every single day. You will go from writing 0 words to writing 3,000 words every single morning. You buy the expensive new gym membership, the fancy running shoes, the pristine new journal. For the first 2 days, you are a superhero. You crush your workout, you hit your word count, you feel invincible. On day 3, you wake up sore and a little tired, but you push through. On day 4, the initial motivation is starting to wane. The warmth of your bed feels a lot more appealing than the cold morning air. You miss one day. It's okay, you tell yourself. I'll make up for it tomorrow. But that one missed day breaks the spell. The perfect streak is gone. The feeling of failure starts to creep in. Your inner critic, which we will discuss in great detail later, starts whispering in your ear. See, you never stick with anything, you just don't have the discipline. Within 2 weeks, the new running shoes are gathering dust. The gym membership card is lost in your wallet, and the resolution is nothing more than a faint memory, another piece of evidence in the case against your own willpower. This is a story that plays out for millions of people year after year. It is the predictable, tragic result of what I call the all-or-nothing trap. We are a culture obsessed with dramatic transformations and overnight success. We watch movies where the hero becomes a master martial artist in a 5-minute training montage. We read headlines about billion-dollar companies that seem to have appeared out of nowhere. Because of this, we fundamentally misunderstand how real, lasting change actually happens. We overestimate the importance of one single defining moment and wildly underestimate the value of making small, seemingly insignificant improvements on a consistent basis. We believe that massive success requires massive action, and while massive action can feel inspiring for a day or two, it is almost always unsustainable. It leads to burnout, disappointment, and the reinforcement of the fixed mindset belief that I'm just not the kind of person who can do this. But what if there was a different way? A way that was quieter, less dramatic, but infinitely more powerful. A way that works with the grain of human nature instead of against it? There is. And it is the single most effective strategy for achieving your long-term goals. I call it the 1% rule, and it is built on a simple yet profound idea. Focus on getting just 1% better every single day. Forget about the massive, earth-shattering leaps. Forget about perfection. Just aim for a tiny, almost imperceptible improvement. It sounds too simple, doesn't it? It sounds almost trivial. How can 1% possibly make a difference? This is where most people miss the magic. They dismiss the power of small gains because they don't see immediate results. But they are forgetting about the most powerful force in the universe, the force of compounding. You may have heard of compounding in the context of finance. If you invest a sum of money and it earns interest, the next year you will earn interest not just on your initial investment, but on the interest as well. Over time, this creates an explosive, exponential growth curve. The same mathematical principle applies to your habits and your personal development. The effects of your habits are multiplied as you repeat them over time. Let's look at the actual math because it is truly astonishing. If you were to get just 1% better at something every day for an entire year, what do you think the result would be? The math is 1.01 to the power of 365. The answer is not that you would be 365% better. The answer is that you would be nearly 38 times better. Your improvement would not be linear. It would be exponential. Now let's look at the flip side. What if you got 1% worse every day for a year? What if you made a small poor choice, a tiny compromise day after day? The math is 0.99 to the power of 365. The result is that you would decline nearly all the way down to zero. This is the nature of compounding. A single choice, a single habit, a single 1% improvement or decline seems insignificant in the moment. It doesn't feel like much to choose a salad over fries for one meal. It doesn't feel like much to read 10 pages of a book instead of scrolling on your phone. It doesn't feel like much to do a 1-minute meditation. In the moment, the impact is negligible, but stretch that choice out over 2, 5, or 10 years, and the difference becomes monumental. The person who consistently makes the 1% better choice ends up in a completely different universe from the person who consistently makes the 1% worse choice. Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations. It is the slow accumulation of thousands of tiny, correct decisions. Your life today is essentially the sum of all your past habits. Your health, your wealth, your relationships, your knowledge, they are all lagging measures of the habits you have cultivated. The challenge, and the reason most people quit, is that there is often a significant delay before we see the results of our efforts. In the beginning, our progress is frustratingly slow. You can go to the gym for a month and feel like nothing has changed. You can practice a new language for weeks and still struggle to form a basic sentence. You can write every day for months and still have no audience. This period of time where your efforts don't seem to be producing any visible results is what author James Clear calls the plateau of latent potential. This is the most dangerous phase of building a new habit. It's the valley of disappointment, where most people give up. They expect their progress to be a straight line, but in reality, it's an exponential curve. For a long time, the curve is flat, almost indistinguishable from zero. All the work is happening beneath the surface, unseen. The foundations are being laid. The roots are growing deeper. And then one day you break through. Think of a bamboo plant. The Chinese bamboo tree is a perfect metaphor for this process. After you plant the seed, you water and fertilize it every single day. For the first year, nothing happens, no visible growth. For the second year, you continue to water and fertilize it, and still, nothing happens. The third year, nothing. The fourth year, nothing. It would be easy to conclude that the seed is a dud and give up. But then in the fifth year, something miraculous occurs. The bamboo tree bursts forth from the ground and grows an astonishing 90 feet in just 6 weeks. The question is, did the bamboo tree grow 90 feet in 6 weeks, or did it grow for 5 years? The answer is obvious. It grew for 5 years. For 4 years, all the growth was happening underground, building a massive and complex root system, strong enough to support the explosive growth that was to come. Without that long period of seemingly fruitless effort, the breakthrough would have been impossible. Your habits work in the same way. When you commit to getting 1% better every day, you are building your root system. Every small action, every repetition, is another root spreading out beneath the soil. You may not see the results today or tomorrow, but you are not wasting your time. You are storing potential. You are building the foundation for a breakthrough. The key is to have faith in the process and to focus on the trajectory, not the current position. You need to fall in love with the boredom of consistency. You need to understand that the greatest rewards are always delayed. You are not just going to the gym, you are building the identity of a healthy person. You are not just writing one page, you are building the identity of a writer. The outcome is just a byproduct of the identity you are cultivating through your tiny, daily actions. So if we agree that tiny habits are the path, how do we actually build them? How do we take a desired change and break it down into a 1% improvement? And how do we make it stick? To answer that, we first need to understand the basic mechanics of a habit. We need to look under the hood. Scientists who study behavior have identified a simple neurological loop that governs every single habit. It consists of 4 distinct stages: the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. Understanding this framework is the key to both building good habits and breaking bad ones. Let's break down each stage. First, there is the cue. The cue is the trigger. It's the little bit of information that predicts a reward and prompts your brain to initiate a behavior. It could be a time of day, a location, a preceding event, an emotional state, or the presence of other people. The buzz of your phone in your pocket is a cue. The smell of coffee brewing in the morning is a cue. Walking into your kitchen and seeing a plate of cookies on the counter is a cue. The feeling of stress is a cue. The cue is the first signal that starts the habit loop. Second, there is the craving. The craving is the motivational force behind every habit. It's not the action itself you crave, but the change in state that it delivers. You don't crave smoking a cigarette. You crave the feeling of relief or relaxation it provides. You don't crave turning on the television. You crave the feeling of being entertained or distracted from your worries. You don't crave checking social media. You crave the feeling of connection or validation. The craving is the prediction your brain makes that a certain action will lead to a desirable outcome. It's the wanting part of the process. Without a craving, there's no reason to act. Third, there is the response. The response is the actual habit you perform, whether it's a thought or an action. It's the act of picking up the cigarette, turning on the TV, or opening the social media app. Whether a response occurs depends on 2 things: your ability to perform the action and the amount of friction associated with it. If a habit requires more physical or mental effort than you are willing to expend, you won't do it. You might crave a clean house, but if the effort of cleaning feels too overwhelming, you'll remain on the couch. Finally, there is the reward. The reward is the end goal of every habit. The cue is about noticing the reward. The craving is about wanting the reward. The response is about obtaining the reward. The reward serves 2 purposes. It satisfies your craving, and it teaches your brain which actions are worth remembering in the future. When you experience a reward, your brain learns that the sequence of actions that preceded it is useful. The feeling of relaxation, the moment of entertainment, the hit of social validation, these are the rewards that tell your brain, hey, that worked. Let's do that again next time we get that cue. This completes the loop and makes the habit more automatic the next time. Let's look at a simple example. Brushing your teeth, the cue might be finishing your breakfast. The craving is the desire for a clean, fresh mouth. The response is the act of brushing your teeth. The reward is the minty taste and the smooth feeling of your clean teeth, which satisfies the craving. This loop is so ingrained for most of us that we do it without any conscious thought. Now consider a bad habit. The cue could be the feeling of stress after a long day at work. The craving is the desire to unwind and escape that feeling. The response might be to pour a large glass of wine or open a bag of potato chips. The reward is the temporary feeling of relaxation or the savory taste, which satisfies the craving for relief. Your brain learns that this is a quick and effective way to deal with stress, and so the loop is reinforced. Once you understand this 4-step pattern, you can use it as a lever to change your behavior. This entire framework can be distilled into 4 simple laws that you can apply to build any habit. The 4 laws are: 1. Make it obvious. 2. Make it attractive. 3. Make it easy. And 4. Make it satisfying. These 4 laws correspond directly to the 4 stages of the habit loop. If you want to build a good habit, you make the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying. If you want to break a bad habit, you simply invert these laws. You make the cue invisible, the craving unattractive, the response difficult, and the reward unsatisfying. Let's dive deep into each of these laws and explore the practical, actionable strategies you can use to implement them in your life. This is the how. The first law is make it obvious. This law is all about the cue, the trigger that starts the habit. Many of our habits are so automatic that we are not even aware of the cues that trigger them. The first step to changing your behavior is to become aware of it. A simple exercise you can do is called a habit scorecard. Simply go through your day and write down every single action you take, from waking up and checking your phone to making coffee and brushing your teeth. Once you have your list, go through it and label each habit as positive, negative, or neutral. This simple act of observation brings your unconscious behaviors into your conscious awareness, which is the necessary first step for change. The most powerful cues are often related to time and location. Our environment plays a huge role in shaping our behavior, often in ways we don't realize. You are far more likely to practice the guitar if it's sitting on a stand in the middle of your living room than if it's packed away in a case in the back of a closet. You are more likely to drink water if you have a water bottle on your desk than if you have to walk down the hall to a water fountain. The most practical way to apply this law is through a technique called environment design. You want to redesign your environment so that the cues for your desired habits are obvious and visible, and the cues for your undesired habits are hidden and invisible. Let's say you want to build the habit of reading more. You could place a book on your pillow each morning after you make your bed. When you go to bed at night, the book is right there, an obvious cue to read for a few minutes before you sleep. If you want to eat healthier snacks, put a bowl of fresh fruit on your kitchen counter where you will see it constantly. At the same time, take the cookies and chips and move them to a high shelf in the pantry out of sight. You are making the good cue obvious and the bad cue invisible. If you want to practice meditation, create a specific, inviting space for it. Have a comfortable cushion in a quiet corner of your room. When you see that space, it will act as a visual cue to meditate. If you want to stop watching so much television, unplug the TV after you're done watching and put the remote control in a drawer in another room. By adding that little bit of friction, you make the cue less obvious and reduce the likelihood of mindlessly turning it on. You are the architect of your environment. Take control of it. Prime it for success. Another powerful strategy for making a cue obvious is called habit stacking. Your brain has already built strong neural pathways for your existing habits. Instead of trying to create a new pathway from scratch, you can piggyback your desired new habit onto an existing one. The formula for habit stacking is simple. After I current habit, I will new habit. The existing habit becomes the cue for the new one. The key is to choose an existing habit that happens with 100% reliability each day. For example, after I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. Pouring your coffee is something you already do automatically. It's a reliable cue. By linking your meditation habit to it, you are leveraging the existing momentum. The possibilities for habit stacking are endless. After I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into my workout clothes. After I brush my teeth at night, I will floss one tooth. After I sit down to eat dinner, I will say one thing I'm grateful for. When I see a set of stairs, I will take them instead of the elevator. Be very specific. The clarity of the plan is crucial. Don't just say, I will meditate more. Say, after I pour my morning coffee, I will sit on the living room couch and meditate for 1 minute. The specificity removes the ambiguity and makes it much more likely that you will follow through. Make a list of your current daily habits. Then make a list of the new habits you want to build. Now you can play matchmaker, linking each new habit to an existing one. This is one of the most effective ways to seamlessly integrate new behaviors into your life. The second law is make it attractive. This law is all about the craving, the motivation that drives you to act. The more attractive and appealing a habit is, the more likely you are to feel a craving for it. We are drawn to behaviors that promise a positive emotional payoff. One of the best ways to make a habit more attractive is a strategy called temptation bundling. This works by linking an action you want to do with an action you need to do. You're essentially bundling a long-term reward with a short-term pleasure. For example, let's say you want to build the habit of exercising, but you find it boring. And let's say you love listening to your favorite true crime podcast or watching a particular show on Netflix. With temptation bundling, you would create a rule for yourself. I'm only allowed to listen to my favorite podcast when I am at the gym, or I can only watch my favorite show while I am on the stationary bike. By doing this, you are transferring the attractive quality of the podcast or the show to the act of exercising. You will start to look forward to going to the gym because it means you get to find out what happens next in the story. You can apply this to almost any habit. I will only get my favorite fancy latte on the mornings I do my 10 minutes of writing. I can scroll through Instagram for 15 minutes after I have done my daily language lesson. You are taking the guaranteed pleasure of the want activity and using it as an immediate reward for doing the need activity. This makes the habit you are trying to build significantly more attractive. Another powerful way to make a habit attractive is to leverage the power of your social environment. We are social creatures, and we have a deep primal need to belong. We naturally tend to imitate the habits of the people around us. One of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. If you want to get fit, join a running group or a CrossFit gym. When you are surrounded by people who get up early to exercise every day, that behavior starts to seem normal and attractive. If you want to read more, join a book club. The social expectation and the engaging conversations will make reading more appealing. If you want to be more entrepreneurial, join a mastermind group or a co-working space with other founders. You will absorb their mindset and habits through osmosis. Surround yourself with people who have the habits you want to have. Their behavior will rub off on you. You will rise to the level of your environment, so choose your environment wisely. The third law is make it easy. This law is all about the response, the action itself. It's a simple truth of human nature that we gravitate toward the path of least resistance. The more friction, the more steps, the more effort required to perform an action, the less likely we are to do it. Conversely, the easier and more convenient a habit is, the more likely we are to stick with it. We talked about designing your environment to make cues obvious, but you can also design it to make the response easier. If you want to eat healthier, chop up a bunch of vegetables on Sunday and put them in containers at the front of your fridge. When you're hungry, the healthy choice is the easy choice. If you want to drink more water, fill up a large water bottle in the morning and keep it on your desk. You have reduced the friction of having to get up and go to the faucet every time you're thirsty. But the most important strategy for making a habit easy is what I call the 2-minute rule. The principle is simple. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. Any goal can be scaled down into a 2-minute version. Read before bed each night becomes read 1 page. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. Study for my class becomes open my notes. Run 3 miles becomes put on my running shoes. The idea is that a habit must be established before it can be improved. The 2-minute rule is not about the results. It's about mastering the art of showing up. So many people go wrong because they start too big. They try to follow the 2-hour workout plan and fail. But anyone can put on their running shoes. Anyone can take out their yoga mat. Anyone can read 1 page. The purpose of the 2-minute rule is to make it so easy to start that you can't say no. It overcomes the inertia and the procrastination that often prevent us from starting in the first place. Once you have started the action, it is much easier to continue doing it. Once you've put on your running shoes and are standing by the door, you're much more likely to actually go for a run. Once you've read 1 page, you might feel like reading a few more. The goal is to make the beginning of the process as easy and frictionless as possible. You're not trying to build the habit of running 3 miles. You're trying to build the habit of becoming the type of person who doesn't miss workouts. The 2-minute rule is the gateway to that identity. It's the first 1%. Master the first 2 minutes and the rest will follow. The fourth and final law is make it satisfying. This law is all about the reward. To make a habit stick, you need to feel successful. A behavior is more likely to be repeated when it is immediately followed by a reward. The problem is that the rewards for many good habits are delayed. The reward for exercising is a healthy body in the future. The reward for saving money is financial freedom in the future. The reward for studying is good grades at the end of the semester. Our brains, however, did not evolve for delayed gratification. They are wired to prioritize immediate rewards. This is why it's so easy to fall into bad habits. The reward for eating a donut is immediate pleasure. The reward for scrolling on social media is an immediate hit of novelty. The bad habit gets the immediate reward, while the good habit has an immediate cost, the effort, for a delayed reward. To fix this, you need to find a way to bring an immediate reward into the present moment for your good habits. The reward needs to be something that reinforces the habit and makes you feel good right after you've done it. For example, after you finish your workout, you could have a delicious protein smoothie that you really enjoy. After you avoid making an impulse purchase, you could immediately transfer the amount of money you would have spent into a savings account with a specific goal, like a vacation fund. Seeing that balance go up provides an immediate hit of satisfaction. The reward can be as simple as giving yourself some verbal praise. After you meditate for 1 minute, you can say to yourself, "Good job, that's a vote for a calmer mind." You are looking for anything that will provide a small immediate positive feeling to end the habit loop. One of the most effective ways to make a habit satisfying is through habit tracking. This is the simple act of measuring whether or not you did your habit for the day. The most basic way to do this is to get a calendar and put a big X on each day you complete your desired behavior. This is surprisingly effective for several reasons. First, it creates a visual cue that reminds you to act. Second, it is motivating to see the progress you are making. As you build up a chain of X's, you will not want to break it. This is known as the Seinfeld strategy, as comedian Jerry Seinfeld reportedly used it to build his habit of writing jokes every day. He wasn't focused on writing good jokes. He was just focused on not breaking the chain. Third, it feels satisfying to record your success. The simple act of marking that X provides a small, immediate reward that reinforces the behavior. When you are tracking your habits, it's inevitable that you will miss a day. Life happens. You get sick, an emergency comes up. The all-or-nothing mindset would see this as a total failure and a reason to quit. But the 1% approach has a simple rule to handle this. Never miss twice. Missing 1 day is an accident. Missing 2 days is the beginning of a new negative habit. The first mistake is never the one that ruins you. It is the spiral of repeated mistakes that follows. If you miss a workout today, make it an absolute priority to get back on track tomorrow, even if it's just the 2-minute version. The goal is not to be perfect, but to be consistent. Don't let one slip-up derail your entire journey. Get back on the horse immediately. These 4 laws, make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, are the toolkit you need to build any habit you desire. They are the practical, step-by-step instructions for implementing the 1% rule. Remember, you are not just performing actions, you are casting votes for the type of person you want to become. Every time you do a workout, you are casting a vote for being a healthy person. Every time you write a page, you are casting a vote for being a writer. Every time you encourage a teammate, you are casting a vote for being a leader. These tiny habits are the path to identity change. You don't just think your way into a new identity, you act your way into it. The goal is not to run a marathon, the goal is to become a runner. The goal is not to write a book, the goal is to become a writer. Your habits are the embodiment of your identity. So start small. Start with 1%. Choose a tiny habit that you can stick with. Make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. And then repeat it, day after day. Let the power of compounding do its magic. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Your habits are your systems. And by building better systems, you can build an unstoppable you. Chapter 4. Taming the Inner Critic. How to Win the War in Your Mind. Let's begin with a story about a woman named Clara, a talented graphic designer with a remarkable eye for color and composition. She has been working for weeks on a proposal for a major new client, a project that could elevate her career to an entirely new level. She has poured her heart and soul into the work, staying late, refining every detail, and creating something she is genuinely proud of. The night before the big presentation, she sits at her kitchen table, running through her slides one last time. And that's when the voice starts. It's a quiet whisper at first, a subtle feeling of unease. Then it gets louder. "This isn't good enough," it says. "Look at that font choice. It's amateurish. They're going to see right through you." The voice continues, its tone shifting from doubt to outright accusation. Who do you think you are to be pitching a client this big? You're a fraud. Remember that project 2 years ago where the client wasn't happy with the final logo? This is going to be a repeat of that disaster. You're going to stand up there tomorrow and your mind is going to go blank. You will humiliate yourself. Her heart starts to race. Her palms get sweaty. The beautiful proposal that she was so proud of just moments ago now looks like a piece of garbage. The confidence she felt has evaporated, replaced by a cold, sickening dread. This voice, this relentless, cruel and convincing saboteur, is her inner critic. And it has her in a chokehold. We all have a version of this voice. It is the universal human companion. It is the voice that magnifies our insecurities, replays our past failures on a loop, and catastrophizes our future. It is the source of self-doubt, procrastination, and perfectionism. It is the single greatest obstacle standing between you and a life of happiness, fulfillment, and success. The war you must win is not with the world, with your competition, or with your circumstances. The most important war is the one that takes place every single day on the battlefield of your own mind. And taming your inner critic is the key to victory. But what is this voice and where does it come from? The inner critic is not you. It is a part of you, but it is not the whole of you. It's important to understand that its original intention was protective. It's a primitive survival mechanism that has gone haywire in the modern world. For our ancient ancestors, living in small, tightly knit tribes, social rejection was a death sentence. Being kicked out of the tribe meant facing the dangers of the wilderness alone. So, a part of the brain developed to be hypervigilant about social acceptance. It constantly scanned for threats, trying to prevent you from doing anything that might lead to failure, embarrassment, or rejection. It would tell you things like, "Don't speak up, you might say something stupid and be ostracized. Don't try that new hunting technique, you might fail and look incompetent. Just keep your head down, fit in and stay safe." In that context, the inner critic was a valuable if anxious ally. The problem is that we still have that same ancient wiring, but we now live in a world of vastly different stakes. For most of us, giving a presentation at work is not a life or death situation. Trying a new hobby and not being good at it will not result in us being cast out into the wilderness. But our inner critic doesn't know that. It still operates from that same primitive fear-based script. It sees any potential for failure or judgment as a mortal threat, and it will do anything in its power to stop you from taking that risk. It tries to protect you by convincing you that you are not good enough, that you should not even try. It is the voice of the fixed mindset we discussed in the first chapter. It believes your abilities are set in stone, and so every action is a high-stakes test that could reveal a fatal flaw. It is the antithesis of the growth mindset, which sees challenges as opportunities to learn and grow. Taming the inner critic is the practical day-to-day work of cultivating a growth mindset. To begin this work, it's helpful to recognize that the critic is not a monolithic entity. It often wears different masks and uses different tactics to achieve its goal of keeping you safe in your comfort zone. By identifying the specific type of critic you are dealing with, you can better understand its motivations and counter its arguments. Let's explore 4 of the most common faces of the inner critic. First, there is the perfectionist. The motto of the perfectionist is, "If you can't do it perfectly, don't do it at all." This critic is obsessed with flawless execution. It will point out every tiny mistake, every minor imperfection, and blow it up into a catastrophic failure. If you write a 200-page report and there is a single typo, the perfectionist will ignore the 199 pages of excellent work and focus only on that one error as proof of your incompetence. It convinces you that you must get it right on the first try, which leads to endless procrastination. You become so afraid of producing something that is not perfect that you never even start. Or you get stuck in an endless loop of revision, never feeling that your work is good enough to be shared with the world. The underlying motivation of the perfectionist is a deep-seated fear of judgment and shame. It believes that if you expose any flaw, you will be deemed unworthy. Second, we have the taskmaster. The taskmaster is the relentless inner slave driver. Its voice is the voice of should. You should be working harder. You should be more productive. You should be further along in your career by now. The taskmaster is fueled by comparison. It constantly points to other people's successes and uses them as a stick to beat you with. It doesn't believe in rest or celebration. As soon as you achieve a goal, it immediately moves the goalposts and tells you that you're not doing enough. It tells you that your worth is directly proportional to your productivity. The taskmaster's greatest fear is being lazy or worthless. It drives you towards burnout by convincing you that you must constantly be striving, pushing, and achieving, or you are nothing. Third, there is the underminer. This is perhaps the most insidious and common form of the critic. The underminer's sole job is to destroy your confidence before you even begin. It whispers things like, "You're not smart enough for that. You don't have the talent. You're just not a natural leader." It specializes in using your past failures as evidence for your future inability. It will dredge up a mistake you made 10 years ago and present it as irrefutable proof that you should not try something new today. The underminer wants to keep you small because it is terrified of failure and disappointment. It believes that if it can convince you not to even try, it can protect you from the pain of falling short. It is the voice that kills more dreams than anything else in the world. Finally, there is the guilt tripper, This critic is the historian of all your mistakes and wrongdoings. It replays your past blunders, your awkward social interactions, and your moral failings over and over again. It is the voice of regret. You should have known better. It's all your fault. If only you had made a different choice. The guilt tripper keeps you trapped in the past, paralyzed by shame and regret. Its greatest fear is that you are a fundamentally bad or unlovable person. By constantly reminding you of your past sins, it seeks to keep you in a state of penance, preventing you from moving forward and forgiving yourself. As you read these descriptions, you likely recognized a familiar voice. Most of us have a dominant critic, although they often work together in a sinister committee. The first step in taming these voices is simply to recognize them, to see them not as the absolute truth, but as a predictable, patterned part of your own mind. Now, let's move to the most important part, the toolkit. These are the practical, actionable strategies you can use to dismantle the critic's power and reclaim your own mind. The first and most foundational technique is to observe and separate. You cannot fight a voice that you believe is you. As long as you are fused with your inner critic, you are at its mercy. The goal is to create a space of separation between your conscious awareness and the stream of critical thoughts. The practice of mindfulness is the key here. Mindfulness teaches you to become an impartial observer of your thoughts, watching them come and go without getting entangled in them. You are not your thoughts. You are the sky, and the thoughts are just clouds passing through. A simple and profoundly effective way to create this separation is to give your inner critic a name. Make it a slightly silly or non-threatening name, like Gremlin George, Worrying Wendy, or the Committee. This may sound trivial, but it is a powerful psychological trick. The act of naming externalizes the voice. It turns it from an all-powerful I into a separate, manageable it. When the stream of negative thoughts begins, instead of thinking, "I am a failure," you can learn to think, "Oh, Gremlin George is at it again with his failure story." This simple reframe instantly robs the critic of its authority. It becomes a predictable and even slightly ridiculous character in your mind, rather than the voice of objective truth. To take this a step further, you can practice thought journaling. For 1 week, carry a notebook with you, and every time you notice your critic's voice, write down exactly what it is saying, verbatim. Don't argue with it, don't analyze it, just write it down. At the end of the week, read through your journal. You will likely notice a few things. First, you will see how incredibly repetitive the critic is. It usually has a few favorite, well-worn attack lines that it uses over and over. Second, you will be shocked at how cruel and abusive the language is. You would never speak to another human being, not even your worst enemy, the way your inner critic speaks to you. Seeing the words written down on paper, separate from your mind, exposes them for what they are. Not helpful, constructive feedback, but irrational, toxic bullying. This awareness is the foundation upon which all other techniques are built. The second technique is to question and reframe. Once you have separated from the critic's voice, you can begin to actively challenge its assertions. The inner critic presents its thoughts as undeniable facts, but in reality, they are usually distorted, exaggerated opinions. Your job is to become a gentle but firm cross-examiner, putting the critic's thoughts on trial. The simplest way to start is by asking a powerful question: is this thought 100% true? Let's say the critic tells you, "I will never be able to get this project done on time." Is that 100% objectively true? Can you predict the future with absolute certainty? Of course not. A more accurate statement might be, "I am feeling overwhelmed by this project and I am worried about the deadline." This shifts the thought from a false fact to an acknowledged feeling. This is the practice of distinguishing between fact and feeling. The critic deals in catastrophic absolutes like always and never and everything. These words are red flags that you are in the realm of cognitive distortion, not reality. You can take this cross-examination further by acting as a detective, looking for evidence. When the critic says, "I am a terrible public speaker," ask it for the evidence. The critic will likely point to a time you stumbled over your words or felt nervous. Then you must act as your own defense attorney. What is the evidence against this thought? You might recall a time you gave a presentation that went well, or when a colleague told you that you explained something clearly. The goal is not to pretend you are a perfect public speaker, but to arrive at a more balanced and realistic conclusion. A more balanced thought would be, "I get nervous about public speaking and I have room to improve, but I'm also capable of communicating my ideas effectively." Once you have questioned the thought and found it to be flawed, the final step is to actively reframe it. This is where you consciously replace the critic's destructive statement with a more constructive, compassionate, and growth-oriented one. This is you actively practicing the growth mindset from Chapter 1. Let's look at a few examples of this transformation. The critic's thought, "This is too hard, I can't do it." The reframe, "This is challenging," which means I am learning. I can't do it yet, but I can take the first small step. The critic's thought, "I made a mistake. I'm so stupid." The reframe, "I made a mistake, which is a normal part of being human. What can I learn from this so I can do better next time?" The critic's thought, "Everyone else is so much more successful than I am." The reframe, "I am on my own journey, and I am comparing my behind the scenes to their highlight reel. I will focus on my own 1% progress today." This practice of questioning and reframing is you actively rewiring your brain. You are weakening the old negative neural pathways and building new supportive ones. The third technique is to cultivate self-compassion. If the inner critic thrives on a fuel of shame, judgment, and isolation, then self-compassion is the antidote that neutralizes that fuel. The pioneering researcher in this field, Dr. Kristin Neff, defines self-compassion as having three core components: mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness. Mindfulness is the ability to observe your own suffering without judgment, to acknowledge, "This is really hard right now." Common humanity is the recognition that suffering and imperfection are part of the shared human experience. It's the understanding that you are not alone. Everyone struggles. Everyone feels inadequate at times. This counters the critic's tendency to make you feel isolated in your failure. Finally, self-kindness is the practice of treating yourself with the same care, warmth, and concern that you would show to a good friend. This last part is the most practical entry point to self-compassion. The next time your inner critic launches an attack, I want you to perform a simple thought experiment which I call the good friend test. Pause and ask yourself, what would I say to my best friend if they came to me with this exact same problem and were saying these cruel things about themselves? Imagine your friend had made the same mistake at work. Would you call them stupid and incompetent? Would you tell them they were a fraud? Of course not. You would likely say something like, "Hey, it's okay. You made a mistake. That doesn't define you. What can we do to fix it? You're smart and capable and you will get through this." We are often masters of compassion when it comes to others, but complete novices when it comes to ourselves. The goal of self-kindness is to turn that same compassionate voice inward. After you have figured out what you would say to your friend, try saying it to yourself. It might feel awkward at first, but with practice you can develop an inner voice that is a supportive coach rather than a harsh critic. You can also develop a self-compassion mantra, a short phrase you can repeat to yourself in moments of difficulty. Dr. Neff suggests a simple, three-part mantra that covers the components of self-compassion. When you are struggling, you can place a hand over your heart and say to yourself, "This is a moment of suffering. Suffering is a part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment." This simple practice acknowledges your pain, connects you to the common human experience, and sets an intention for self-kindness. It is a powerful way to soothe your own nervous system and interrupt the critic's attack. The fourth and final technique is to embody gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful pattern interrupts for the inner critic. The critic's job is to scan your world, both internal and external, for what is wrong, what is lacking, and what might go wrong in the future. It is a master of finding fault. Gratitude, on the other hand, forces your brain to do the exact opposite. It forces you to scan your world for what is right, what you have, and what is good. From a neurological perspective, it is very difficult for the brain to be in a state of genuine gratitude and a state of fear-based anxiety at the same time. They are mutually exclusive channels. By consciously choosing to focus on gratitude, you can actively shift your emotional and mental state. One of the most well-researched and effective gratitude practices is the 3 good things exercise. At the end of each day, just before you go to sleep, take out your notebook and write down 3 specific things that went well for you that day. They don't have to be monumental events. They can be small. I enjoyed the taste of my morning coffee. My colleague smiled at me in the hallway. I saw a beautiful sunset on my way home. After you write down each good thing, write a brief sentence about why it happened or what your role was in it. For example, I took a moment to really savor my coffee instead of just gulping it down. This practice trains your brain to become better at noticing the positives that are already present in your life. It's like a workout for your brain, strengthening the neural pathways that look for the good. You can also use gratitude as an in-the-moment tool to combat a critic spiral. When you feel the familiar dread and negativity starting to take hold, pause, take a deep breath, and then, either out loud or in your head, name 3 specific things you can be grateful for in that very moment. They can be incredibly simple. I am grateful for the chair that is supporting me. I am grateful for the air I am breathing. I am grateful for the fact that I am safe in this room. This practice acts as an anchor, pulling you out of the catastrophic future imagined by the critic and grounding you firmly in the reality of the present moment. It breaks the momentum of the negative thought loop and gives you the space to choose a different thought. These 4 tools, observe and separate, question and reframe, cultivate self-compassion and embody gratitude, form a comprehensive strategy for taming your inner critic. It is important to understand that the goal is not to completely eliminate the critic. That is an impossible battle. The critic is a part of your psychological makeup. The goal is to change your relationship with it. The goal is to demote it. You are taking the critic out of the driver's seat of your life and moving it into the passenger seat. You can hear its voice, you can acknowledge its presence, but you no longer have to believe it or let it control the steering wheel. You learn to see it for what it is, an anxious, outdated fear machine that is just trying in its own clumsy and destructive way to keep you safe. With practice, you can transform your inner world. You can learn to turn down the volume of the inner critic and turn up the volume of a wiser, calmer, more compassionate inner voice, your inner coach. This inner coach acknowledges your fears, but doesn't let them rule you. It encourages you to take risks and reminds you that your worth is not dependent on your performance. It treats failure not as a verdict, but as a lesson. It celebrates your effort, not just your results. Winning the war in your mind is about this transformation. It is about consciously choosing which voice you will listen to, which voice you will cultivate, and which voice you will lead with. Your inner critic is the voice of your past, of your fears and your conditioning. Your inner coach is the voice of your potential, of your growth and your wisdom. By taming the critic, you are not just silencing a negative voice, you are liberating your true self. You are giving yourself the permission to be imperfect, to be brave, and to live a life that is not free from fear, but free from the tyranny of fear. Chapter 5. Fuel your engine, the undeniable link between body and mind. Meet David, a 42-year-old vice president at a fast-growing tech company. By every external metric we discussed in Chapter 2, David is a wild success. He has the 7-figure salary, the beautiful home, the loving family, and the respect of his peers. He has read all the books on leadership and productivity. He has cultivated a growth mindset, diligently applying the principles of our first chapter. He has built incredible systems for his work, a true master of the tiny habits we explored in Chapter 3. He has even worked on taming his inner critic, learning to question its negative pronouncements. And yet, David feels terrible. He wakes up most mornings feeling as if he's already run a marathon, a deep, bone-weary fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to touch. He walks through his day in a thick haze of brain fog, struggling to focus in meetings and finding it nearly impossible to summon the creative energy his job demands. He's irritable with his team and short-tempered with his family, reacting to minor setbacks with an anger that feels foreign and disproportionate. He tells himself it's just the stress of his high-pressure job, that he just needs to push through, to be more disciplined, to manage his mind better. What David doesn't realize is that he is trying to run sophisticated software on corrupted hardware. He is trying to win a mental game, while completely ignoring the physical machine that houses his mind. His typical day starts with a sugary pastry and a large coffee, which he sips throughout the morning to stay alert. Lunch, if he has time for it, is a quick sandwich or a slice of pizza eaten at his desk while answering emails. The afternoon slump hits him like a tidal wave, so he combats it with another coffee and a handful of candy from the office snack jar. He spends 10 hours a day sitting in a chair, staring at a screen. Exercise is a walk from the office to his car. By the time he gets home, he is too exhausted to connect with his family, so he collapses on the couch, orders takeout, and scrolls through his phone until bedtime. He stays up too late, his mind buzzing from the day's stress and the blue light of his screen, and then wakes up the next morning to repeat the cycle. David's problem isn't a lack of willpower or a faulty mindset. His problem is that he is profoundly, physically unwell. He has forgotten the most fundamental truth of the human experience. The mind and body are not two separate entities. They are one deeply interconnected, inseparable system. You cannot have a happy, focused, and resilient mind in a sick, tired, and inflamed body. This chapter is about fixing the hardware. It's about the 3 non-negotiable biological foundations of your well-being: the food you eat, the way you move your body, and the quality of your sleep. No mindset hack, productivity trick, or self-help technique will ever work if you neglect this engine. Fueling your body correctly is not a luxury. It is the prerequisite for everything else you want to achieve in your life. Let's begin with the most direct input you give your system every single day: food. The old saying, "You are what you eat," is not a metaphor. It is a literal biological reality. The food you consume is broken down and reassembled into the very fabric of your cells, your tissues, your organs, and most importantly for our discussion, your brain. But the connection is even more immediate and profound than that. We need to talk about your second brain. In recent years, scientists have made extraordinary discoveries about the intricate communication network that exists between your gut and your brain. This is known as the gut-brain axis. Your gastrointestinal tract is lined with more than 100 million nerve cells, a neural network so vast and complex that it is often referred to as the second brain. This second brain in your gut is in constant, two-way communication with the brain in your head. And the health of the trillions of bacteria living in your gut microbiome, plays a shockingly significant role in your mood, your thoughts, and your mental health. Think of your gut microbiome as a vast, complex rainforest ecosystem. When it is healthy and diverse, filled with a rich variety of beneficial bacteria, it thrives. In this state, your gut produces a significant portion of the body's neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers that regulate your mood. For example, over 90% of your body's serotonin, the feel-good neurotransmitter, most commonly associated with happiness and well-being, is produced not in your brain but in your gut. When your gut is healthy, it sends a steady stream of positive signals to your brain, promoting feelings of calmness and contentment. But what happens when you eat a diet high in processed foods, sugar, and unhealthy fats? You are essentially clear-cutting your internal rainforest and replacing it with a toxic waste dump. These foods feed the harmful bacteria allowing them to crowd out the beneficial ones. This state of imbalance, known as dysbiosis, creates inflammation and disrupts neurotransmitter production. Your gut then begins sending distress signals to your brain, signals that can manifest as anxiety, depression, brain fog, and irritability. That persistent low mood or that nagging anxiety you're feeling might not be a psychological problem at all. It could be a direct message from your inflamed and unhappy gut. Beyond the gut-brain axis, there is another immediate way that food impacts your mental state, the blood sugar roller coaster. When you eat a meal high in refined carbohydrates and sugar, like David's morning pastry or his afternoon candy, your body is flooded with glucose. Your blood sugar level spikes dramatically. To deal with this sugar overload, your pancreas releases a flood of the hormone insulin, which quickly shuttles the sugar out of your bloodstream and into your cells. This causes your blood sugar to crash, often dropping even lower than it was before you ate. This crash is the source of the dreaded mid-afternoon slump. It's when you suddenly feel foggy, irritable, exhausted, and desperately crave more sugar to get your energy back up. You reach for another cookie, and the whole vicious cycle begins again. Living on this roller coaster is a recipe for mental and emotional instability. Your focus is shattered, your willpower is depleted, and your mood is at the mercy of your last meal. Conversely, a diet based on whole foods, lean proteins, healthy fats, and high-fiber carbohydrates like vegetables and whole grains provides a slow, steady release of energy. Your blood sugar remains stable, your mood is more even, your focus is sustained. You are in control, not the cravings. Understanding this is one thing, but changing your eating habits can feel overwhelming, especially when you are surrounded by temptation and confusing nutritional advice. The all-or-nothing mindset often kicks in here. We decide to go on a strict, restrictive diet, cutting out everything we enjoy. This is the nutritional equivalent of deciding to go from the couch to a 2-hour gym session. It's unsustainable. Instead, we are going to apply the 1% rule. We will focus on small, sustainable changes that compound over time. The first and most powerful strategy is the addition, not subtraction method. Forget about all the foods you can't have. That mindset creates feelings of deprivation and rebellion. Instead, focus only on what you can add to your diet. Your first challenge is simple. For the next week, your only goal is to add 1 serving of vegetables to your lunch. That's it. You don't have to change anything else. You can still have the pizza, but you are going to add a side salad. You can still have the sandwich, but you are going to add a handful of baby carrots. This approach is psychologically powerful for several reasons. First, it's easy. It's a 2-minute rule for nutrition. Anyone can add a handful of spinach to their plate. Second, it's positive. You are focused on a successful act of addition, not a painful act of subtraction. Third, it creates a natural crowding out effect. As you add more healthy, high-fiber foods to your plate, you will naturally have less room and less appetite for the unhealthy stuff. After a week of adding a vegetable to your lunch, you can add another small habit. Maybe you add a glass of water before every meal. Then, the week after, you add a piece of fruit as your afternoon snack instead of candy. These are small, almost trivial changes, but over months they will fundamentally transform your diet, your gut health, and your mental clarity. To make this connection between food and mood personal, we're going to use an actionable exercise I call the energy audit. For the next 3 days, you are going to become a scientist of your own body. Get a notebook and create a simple log with 4 columns: time, food, drink consumed, energy level 1 to 10, and mood, e.g. focused, irritable, calm, foggy. Your job is to simply record the data without judgment. For example, a log entry might look like this: 8 a.m. large latte with sugar and a croissant. Energy, 4. Mood, groggy. Another entry, 10:30 a.m. no food, energy, 2. Mood, irritable, foggy. Another 1 p.m. grilled chicken salad with lots of veggies and olive oil dressing. Energy, 6. Mood, starting to feel clearer. And another 3:30 p.m. handful of almonds and an apple. Energy, 7. Mood, focused. At the end of the 3 days, review your log. You will start to see undeniable patterns. You will see exactly which foods give you sustained energy and a positive mood, and which ones send you on the blood sugar roller coaster. This is not about me telling you what to eat. This is about you listening to the clear feedback your own body is giving you. This personalized data is infinitely more motivating than any generic diet plan. Now, let's talk about the second pillar of physical well-being: movement. Our bodies were designed to move. For 99% of human history, our ancestors were in constant motion, hunting, gathering, and migrating. The modern sedentary lifestyle, sitting in a car, sitting at a desk, sitting on a couch, is a radical and dangerous departure from our biological blueprint. We have come to see exercise as a chore, a punishment for what we ate, or something we do solely to change the way our bodies look. But this is a tragically narrow view. Movement is not primarily about burning calories or building biceps. Movement is medicine for your mind. When you engage in physical activity, you are initiating a cascade of powerful neurochemical changes that have a direct and immediate impact on your happiness, focus, and resilience. When you move your body, your brain releases a class of chemicals called endorphins. These are your body's natural opiates. They are powerful mood elevators and pain relievers. This is the source of the runner's high, that feeling of euphoria and clarity that can follow a good workout. But you don't have to run a marathon to experience it. Even a brisk walk can trigger a significant endorphin release, lifting your mood and melting away stress. Exercise also increases the production of other crucial neurotransmitters like serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine, all of which play a vital role in regulating your mood and attention. In fact, numerous studies have shown that consistent exercise can be as effective as antidepressant medication for treating mild to moderate depression, with the added benefit of no negative side effects. Even more exciting is the effect of exercise on a remarkable molecule called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. You can think of BDNF as miracle grow for your brain. It is a protein that stimulates the growth of new neurons and strengthens the connections between existing ones, a process critical for learning, memory, and higher-level thinking. A sedentary lifestyle leads to low levels of BDNF, making your brain less plastic and more vulnerable to decline. An active lifestyle, on the other hand, floods your brain with this powerful growth factor. Every time you exercise, you are literally making your brain smarter, more creative, and more resilient. At the same time, movement is one of the most effective ways to manage stress. When you are stressed, your body is flooded with the hormone cortisol. Chronic high levels of cortisol are toxic, damaging brain cells and contributing to anxiety and depression. Physical activity helps to metabolize and clear cortisol from your system, while also training your body's stress response system to become more efficient. So how do we integrate this powerful medicine into our lives, especially when we feel busy and unmotivated? First, we must redefine what exercise means. Let go of the belief that you need to spend an hour at a gym for it to count. All movement counts. The goal is simply to spend less time sitting and more time moving. The second step is to apply the same habit-building principles we've already learned. Start with the 2-minute rule. Your goal for the first week is not to run a 5K. Your goal is to put on your running shoes and walk out your front door for 2 minutes every day. That's the win. Anyone can do that. You are mastering the art of showing up. Often those 2 minutes will turn into 5 and then 10, because starting is the hardest part. Next, use temptation bundling to make it attractive. Pair your movement with something you genuinely enjoy. Only listen to your favorite podcast while you're on a walk. Only watch your favorite guilty pleasure TV show while you're on a stationary bike or doing stretches on the floor. This transforms the experience from a chore into a treat. Another powerful strategy is to introduce the concept of movement snacking. Instead of thinking you need one long, continuous block of exercise, look for opportunities to sprinkle small snacks of movement throughout your day. While you're waiting for your coffee to brew, do a set of squats. When you're on a phone call, pace around the room. After every hour of sitting at your desk, get up and do 2 minutes of stretching. Take a brisk 10-minute walk after lunch. These small snacks are incredibly effective. They break up long periods of sitting, keep your energy levels stable, and their cumulative effect on your health and mood is enormous. Your challenge is to find 3 5-minute slots in your day where you can insert a movement snack. Set a timer on your phone to remind you. It's a small change that will yield massive dividends in your mental and physical energy. The final, and arguably most important pillar of your physical engine is sleep. We live in a culture that treats sleep as a luxury, a sign of weakness, or a waste of time that could be better spent hustling. This is a profoundly dangerous and scientifically illiterate belief. Sleep is not an optional activity. It is a fundamental, non-negotiable biological necessity. Neglecting sleep is the fastest way to sabotage your happiness, your health, and your success. Think of it this way. Your brain is a high-performance engine that is running all day. As it runs, it generates metabolic waste products, just like a car's engine produces exhaust. During the day, these waste products, including a toxic protein called beta amyloid, accumulate in your brain. While you are in a state of deep sleep, a remarkable process occurs. Your brain cells actually shrink, opening up channels between them. This allows cerebrospinal fluid to flush through your brain, acting as a janitorial crew that clears away all the metabolic waste accumulated during the day. This is your brain's nightly cleaning cycle. When you cut your sleep short, you are robbing the janitorial crew of the time they need to do their job. The toxins remain. Beta amyloid, the protein I mentioned, is the same one that forms the sticky plaques found in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. A single night of poor sleep can lead to a measurable increase in this toxin in your brain. Consistent sleep deprivation is one of the most significant lifestyle risk factors for developing dementia later in life. The immediate effects of poor sleep are just as devastating. Sleep deprivation has a catastrophic impact on your emotional regulation and your decision-making abilities. The part of your brain responsible for emotional reactivity, the amygdala, becomes hyperactive when you are sleep-deprived. At the same time, the connection between the amygdala and your prefrontal cortex, the rational, logical part of your brain that acts as the CEO, becomes severed. The result is that you become all emotional gas pedal and no rational brake. Minor frustrations that you would normally brush off become major sources of anger and anxiety. You become emotionally volatile, and your ability to empathize with others plummets. Your decision-making also suffers immensely. Your ability to think creatively, to solve complex problems, and to assess risk and reward is severely impaired. Being awake for 19 hours has an effect on your cognitive performance that is equivalent to being legally drunk. The irony is that the person who boasts about pulling an all-nighter to finish a project has likely produced work that is subpar and riddled with errors, and they have damaged their health in the process. Prioritizing sleep is not lazy. It is the most intelligent and strategic thing you can do to enhance your performance in every area of your life. So, how do we improve the quality of our sleep? It requires a conscious and deliberate effort to create the right conditions. The first step is to create a sleep sanctuary. Your bedroom should be a haven for sleep and nothing else. This means it needs to be cool, dark, and quiet. The ideal temperature for sleep is surprisingly cool, around 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 degrees Celsius. Invest in blackout curtains or a comfortable sleep mask to make your room as dark as possible. Even a small amount of light can disrupt the production of melatonin, your sleep hormone. Use earplugs or a white noise machine to block out any disruptive sounds. Most importantly, your bed should be for sleep and intimacy only. Do not work in your bed. Do not watch TV in your bed. Do not scroll through your phone in your bed. You want your brain to have a powerful conditioned association between your bed and sleep. The single most destructive thing for modern sleep is our addiction to screens. Our phones, tablets, and computers emit a high concentration of blue light. When your eyes are exposed to blue light in the evening, it sends a powerful signal to your brain that it is still daytime. This suppresses the release of melatonin and makes it much harder to fall asleep and to reach the deeper, more restorative stages of sleep. To combat this, you must implement a digital sunset. 1 hour before your scheduled bedtime, all screens must be turned off. No exceptions. This 1 hour period is your wind-down routine, a buffer between the stress of your day and the rest of the night. What you do during this hour is crucial. You want to engage in calming, relaxing activities. Read a physical book, not an e-reader with a backlight. Listen to calming music or a relaxing podcast. Do some light stretching or foam rolling. Take a warm bath or shower. The subsequent drop in your body temperature will help signal to your body that it's time for sleep. You can also use this time for journaling, writing down any thoughts or worries that are circling in your mind. This act of brain dumping gets the thoughts out of your head and onto the page, so they are less likely to keep you awake. Create a consistent wind-down routine that you enjoy and protect that final hour of your day as if it was sacred. Nutrition, movement, and sleep. These are the three legs of the stool upon which your entire well-being rests. If any one of them is weak, the whole structure becomes unstable. You can have the most brilliant, growth-oriented mind in the world, but if you are fueling it with garbage, chaining it to a chair and depriving it of its essential cleaning cycle, you will never be able to access its full potential. David, our overwhelmed executive, doesn't need another productivity app. He needs to trade his morning pastry for a protein smoothie. He needs to schedule a 10-minute walking meeting instead of another conference room call. He needs to plug his phone in across the room an hour before bed and pick up a book. These are not small optional tweaks. They are the fundamental game-changing actions that will restore his energy, clear his mind, and give him back the capacity to be the leader, husband, and father he truly wants to be. So I ask you to look honestly at your own life. Are you treating your body like a high-performance vehicle, or are you treating it like a dumpster? Are you fueling your engine, or are you running on fumes? The journey to a happy, fulfilled, and wildly successful life does not begin in your mind. It begins on your plate, with your footsteps, and on your pillow. Honor your body. It is the only one you will ever have, and it is the vessel that will carry you toward all of your dreams. Chapter 6. The currency of connection. Building your tribe. Let's start by painting two very different pictures of success. In the first picture, we have a man named Julian. Julian is a genius software engineer who founded a highly successful company. He is a multi-millionaire before the age of 35. He lives in a stunning, minimalist mansion with panoramic ocean views. He drives a rare sports car and is celebrated on the covers of business magazines as a visionary. A lone wolf who built an empire through sheer brilliance and relentless work ethic. He has achieved the pinnacle of what our society defines as success. But if you were to follow Julian through his day, you would see a different story. He wakes up alone. He works alone in his vast home office, interacting with his employees only through screens. He eats his meals alone, delivered to his door. His evenings are quiet and empty. The people in his life are transactional: lawyers, accountants, employees. There is no one he can call when he feels the crushing weight of his responsibilities. There is no one to share his fears or his triumphs with. In the cavernous echo of his perfect house, Julian is profoundly, achingly lonely. His wealth is a fortress that has become a prison. In the second picture, we have a woman named Sarah. Sarah is a second-grade teacher. She lives in a modest apartment in a friendly neighborhood. She doesn't have a massive savings account or a fancy car. By the world's standards, her success is humble. But let's look at her life. Her morning starts with a text from her sister, sharing a funny photo. At school, she is greeted with hugs from her students. She collaborates with her fellow teachers, a team of women who are not just her colleagues, but her close friends. After school, she goes to a yoga class at a community studio where she knows everyone by name. In the evening, she might have dinner with a group of friends, a loud, joyful affair filled with laughter and shared stories. On the weekend, she volunteers at a local community garden. When she is struggling, she has a network of people she can turn to for support without a moment's hesitation. Sarah's life is overflowing with a different kind of currency, a currency that cannot be measured in dollars but is infinitely more valuable for her well-being. She is rich in connection. The stark contrast between Julian and Sarah illustrates a fundamental truth that our modern society often encourages us to forget. Human beings are not built for isolation. We are a tribal species. For hundreds of thousands of years, our survival depended entirely on our ability to cooperate, to form strong social bonds, and to belong to a supportive community. Our brains and our nervous systems are intricately wired for connection. When we have it, we thrive. When we don't, we begin to wither, no matter how much external success we accumulate. We have talked about mindset, habits, and physical health, but if you neglect the currency of connection, you will never feel truly happy or fulfilled. Building your tribe, your personal community of deep, authentic relationships, is not a nice-to-have soft skill. It is an essential pillar of a well-lived life, as critical to your health as nutrition or sleep. In recent decades, we have drifted into what many have called a loneliness epidemic. Despite being more digitally connected than at any point in human history, we are experiencing social connection at an all-time low. We have substituted deep, in-person community for the shallow, curated world of social media. We have prioritized individual achievement over communal well-being, and we are paying a heavy price. The science on this is terrifyingly clear. Chronic loneliness is not just a bad feeling, it is a serious public health crisis. A landmark study revealed that the health risks associated with chronic loneliness are equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It is more dangerous for your long-term health than obesity or physical inactivity. Loneliness has been shown to increase the risk of heart disease, stroke, and the progression of Alzheimer's disease. It weakens the immune system, increases inflammation throughout the body, and can lead to a significantly shorter lifespan. Why is isolation so toxic? From an evolutionary perspective, being alone signaled extreme danger to our ancestors. An isolated human was a vulnerable human, an easy target for predators. This ancient programming is still active within us. When you feel socially isolated, your brain perceives it as a threat and activates your body's fight-or-flight stress response. Your cortisol levels rise, your blood pressure increases, and you enter a state of chronic low-grade hypervigilance. This constant state of alert wears down your body over time, leading to the host of health problems I just mentioned. This is why Julian, despite his success and safety, lives in a state of quiet, constant stress. His nervous system is telling him he is unsafe because he is alone. Sarah, on the other hand, regularly experiences the neurochemical cocktail of connection. When she shares a laugh with a friend, gets a hug from a student, or feels understood by a colleague, her brain releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. Oxytocin calms the nervous system, lowers cortisol, and creates feelings of trust, safety, and well-being. Her relationships are a powerful natural antidote to stress. So how do we begin to build this kind of relational wealth in a world that seems to push us toward isolation? The first step is to perform an honest audit of your current social life, moving beyond the superficial metrics of the digital age. The great illusion of social media is that it makes us feel connected while often deepening our sense of isolation. Having 500 friends on Facebook or thousands of followers on Instagram is not the same as having one person you can call at 3 in the morning when your world is falling apart. We need to shift our focus from quantity to quality. It's not about how many people you know. It's about the depth and authenticity of the connections you have. A powerful framework for this audit is to think of the people in your life as either energy givers or energy takers. This is not about judging people as good or bad. It's simply about recognizing how you feel after you interact with them. Energy givers are the people who leave you feeling seen, heard, supported, and energized. They are genuinely happy for your successes and compassionate about your struggles. Conversations with them feel balanced and reciprocal. You can be your true, imperfect self around them without fear of judgment. They are the friends who, after you spend time with them, make you feel better about yourself and the world. Energy takers, on the other hand, are the people who consistently leave you feeling drained, anxious, or diminished. They might be constantly negative, endlessly complaining about their own problems without ever asking about yours. They might be subtly critical or competitive, always trying to one-up you. They might be dramatic, pulling you into their endless vortex of chaos. After an interaction with an energy taker, you often feel exhausted, as if you've just run a social marathon. I want you to take out your notebook for a private exercise I call the connection audit. On a new page, I want you to list the 5 to 10 people you spend the most time and energy on. This can include family, friends, and colleagues. Now, next to each name, I want you to reflect honestly. After I interact with this person, do I generally feel energized or drained, inspired or discouraged, expansive or small? Be honest with yourself. This is for your eyes only. Once you have this list, you will likely see a clear pattern. The goal here is not to create a hit list and immediately cut all the energy takers out of your life. Some of them may be family members or colleagues you cannot avoid. The goal is awareness. This audit gives you the data you need to make more conscious choices about where you invest your most precious resource, your social energy. Your action plan is twofold. First, make a conscious decision to proactively invest more time and energy in your top 3 energy givers. Reach out to them, schedule a call, a coffee, or a walk. Let them know you appreciate them. Nurture these life-giving connections as if they were a precious garden. Second, create a plan to set healthy boundaries with the people who consistently drain you. This doesn't have to be a dramatic confrontation. It can be as simple as limiting the amount of time you spend with them, keeping conversations on a more superficial level, or politely declining invitations that you know will leave you feeling depleted. You are taking conscious control of your social environment. Once you have identified the relationships you want to deepen, the next question is, how do you actually do that? Deep, authentic connection is not built on grand gestures. It is built in the small, everyday moments of interaction. And the foundation of all deep connection is a skill that is becoming increasingly rare in our distracted world: the art of listening. Most of us don't really listen. We engage in what I call listening to reply. While the other person is talking, we are not fully present with what they are saying. Instead, our mind is busy formulating our response, thinking of a similar story we can tell, or waiting for our turn to speak. This is not connection. It is a series of intersecting monologues. True, deep listening is listening to understand. It is the act of getting out of your own head and becoming genuinely curious about the other person's world. It is the generous gift of your full, undivided attention. How do you practice this? The first step is simple, yet revolutionary in our modern age. Put away the distractions. When you are having a conversation with someone, put your phone away. Turn it over. Put it in your pocket. This single act sends a powerful message. You are more important to me than anything that could happen on this screen. The next step is to master the art of asking better questions. Instead of asking closed yes or no questions, practice asking open-ended questions that invite a more thoughtful response. Instead of, "Did you have a good day?" try, "What was the most interesting part of your day?" Instead of, "Was the meeting bad?" try, "How did you feel in that meeting?" These questions open the door to a deeper level of sharing. The most advanced listening skill is called reflective listening. This is the practice of paraphrasing what you heard the other person say to ensure you understand them correctly. It sounds like, "So what I'm hearing you say is that you're feeling frustrated because you feel like your boss isn't recognizing your contributions. Is that right?" This simple act is incredibly powerful. It makes the other person feel deeply seen and understood. It also clears up any miscommunications and shows that you are truly engaged. Finally, learn to validate their feelings. You don't have to agree with them to validate their emotional experience. Validation sounds like, "That sounds incredibly difficult," or "I can understand why you would feel that way." You are acknowledging that their emotional response is legitimate. This creates a profound sense of psychological safety and trust. Imagine if you offered this quality of listening to the most important people in your life. Your relationships would transform almost overnight. Beyond deep listening, connection is built through the courage of vulnerability. The researcher and author Brené Brown has done groundbreaking work on this topic. She has shown that we often believe vulnerability is a weakness. We think we need to present a perfect, polished, have-it-all-together version of ourselves to be accepted and loved. But the exact opposite is true. Vulnerability is the birthplace of connection. True intimacy is forged when we have the courage to let ourselves be seen, warts and all. It's when we share our fears, our insecurities and our struggles. When we are vulnerable with someone and they respond with empathy and understanding, it creates an unbreakable bond of trust. Think about the people you feel closest to in your life. It is likely they are the people who have seen you at your worst and loved you anyway. This doesn't mean you should overshare with everyone you meet. It means being willing to take off the armor with the people who have earned the right to see you. It means when a trusted friend asks how you are, you have the courage to say, "You know what? I'm actually really struggling right now," instead of the automatic, "I'm fine." It's in these moments of authentic sharing that relationships move from the shallow end to the deep end. Your challenge is to take one small vulnerable step with one trusted person this week. It could be admitting you're feeling overwhelmed at work, sharing a fear about the future, or apologizing for a mistake you made. It will feel risky, but the potential reward, a deeper, more authentic connection, is immense. We have talked about auditing and deepening your existing relationships, but what if you feel like you need to build your tribe from scratch? This is a common challenge, especially as we get older and move beyond the built-in social structures of school. The key here is to be proactive and intentional. Friendships don't just happen, they are cultivated. The first principle to understand is the proximity principle. We are naturally more likely to form friendships with people we encounter regularly. You can't build a connection with someone you never see. So the first step is to strategically place yourself in environments where you will consistently see the same people. The best way to do this is to leverage your genuine interests. Take out your notebook again. Make a list of 5 to 10 things you genuinely enjoy doing or are curious about. It could be anything: hiking, painting, board games, learning a language, volunteering for a cause you care about, rock climbing, creative writing. Now, next to each interest, I want you to brainstorm where you could go to engage in that activity in a group setting. If you like hiking, you could join a local hiking club. If you're interested in painting, you could sign up for a weekly art class. If you love board games, you can find a local game store that hosts a weekly game night. The key is to choose activities that have a built-in recurring element. A one-off workshop is less effective than a class that meets every Tuesday for 8 weeks. This consistency is what allows acquaintances to blossom into friendships. You move from small talk to real conversation because you have a shared experience and repeated exposure over time. Once you are in these environments, you have to be willing to take a small social risk. This is where the connection challenge comes in. Your goal is to make a small bid for connection. This concept, from the relationship researchers at the Gottman Institute, suggests that relationships are built on tiny moments of reaching out. In a new group, this could be as simple as asking someone a question about themselves, giving them a genuine compliment, or suggesting you grab a coffee after the class or event. Most people are just as nervous about making new friends as you are. By being the one to take that small initiative, you are opening a door that they are often very happy to walk through. Yes, there will be times when you are met with rejection or disinterest, but that is okay. It is not a reflection of your worth. It is simply a matter of chemistry. You are looking for your people, and not everyone will be your person. You must be willing to endure a few awkward conversations to find the connections that will enrich your life for years to come. Your tribe, your inner circle, is one of the greatest investments you will ever make. It will be the safety net that catches you when you fall. It will be the cheering section that celebrates your victories. It will be the mirror that reflects back to you who you truly are. The richness of your life will ultimately not be measured by the size of your bank account or the length of your resume, but by the quality of your relationships. Julian, our lonely millionaire, learned this the hard way. He eventually sold his company, moved to a smaller town, joined a local cycling club, and started volunteering. He traded his vast, empty mansion for a life filled with laughter, support, and genuine connection. He learned that true wealth is not something you accumulate, but something you share. So I leave you with this question and this challenge. Who are the people in your life that make you feel truly alive? And what is one small action you can take today, right now, to nurture that connection or to open the door to a new one? Pick up the phone, send the text, make the invitation. The currency of connection is the only currency that truly matters. Invest in it wisely. Chapter 7. Finding your why. The driving force of a fulfilled life. Let's take a walk through 2 different lives. The first life belongs to a man named Mark. Mark has what most people would consider a good life. He works as an accountant at a stable, respectable firm. He earns a comfortable salary, enough to afford a nice apartment and a reliable car. His work is predictable. He knows what to expect each day. He is competent, but not passionate. He goes to work, performs his duties, comes home, watches television, goes to sleep, and repeats the cycle. On the weekends, he does his errands and tries to relax, but he is often hounded by a vague, persistent feeling of restlessness, a quiet hum of dissatisfaction that he can't quite name. He feels like he is a character in a movie that someone else is directing. The days and weeks blend into one another. a long grey hallway of monotonous existence. He is not unhappy, not in an acute, painful way. He is simply empty. He is drifting on a calm sea with no sail and no destination, pushed along by the gentle currents of societal expectation. Mark lacks a why. The second life belongs to a woman named Eleanor. Eleanor is a community garden organizer in a dense urban neighborhood. Her job is not glamorous. She doesn't earn a lot of money. In fact, she often worries about her finances. Her work is difficult. She deals with city bureaucracy, difficult weather, and the occasional neighborhood dispute. Some days she comes home covered in dirt and exhausted to her core. But Eleanor wakes up every morning with a powerful, animating energy. She walks to the garden, a vibrant patch of green she helped carve out of a neglected city lot, and she feels a profound sense of purpose. She sees the elderly residents who now have a place to socialize and grow fresh vegetables. She sees the young children learning where their food comes from. She sees a community being woven together, seed by seed, conversation by conversation. Her work is a direct expression of her deepest values: community, nature, and service. When she faces a setback, a pest infestation, a funding cut, she feels frustration but never despair. The difficulty does not drain her, it fuels her. She knows exactly why her work matters. The struggles have meaning. Eleanor is living a life powered by a clear and compelling why. The difference between Mark and Eleanor is not the difference between success and failure. It is the difference between a life of aimless existence and a life of purposeful engagement. Your why is your personal, unique, and deeply held reason for being. It is the answer to the question, for what purpose do I get out of bed in the morning? It is the source of your most powerful and sustainable motivation. It is the internal compass that guides your decisions, the anchor that holds you steady in a storm, and the engine that pulls you through the inevitable struggles and setbacks that life will throw your way. In our previous chapters, we have built a powerful vehicle. We have installed the growth mindset as the operating system, defined success on our own terms, learned to build unstoppable habits, quieted the inner critic, fueled our physical engine, and understood the currency of connection. But a vehicle, no matter how well built, is useless without a destination. Your why is your destination. It is the driving force that gives the entire journey meaning. The search for purpose can feel like a daunting, almost mystical quest. We often fall into the trap of thinking it must be some grand, earth-shattering mission, a singular calling that will be revealed to us in a flash of divine insight. We see figures like Martin Luther King Jr. or Mother Teresa and think that if our purpose isn't as monumental as theirs, it doesn't count. This is one of the most paralyzing myths about purpose. For most of us, purpose is not about saving the entire world. It is about finding the unique way in which we can serve our small corner of it. A purpose can be raising conscious, kind children. It can be creating beautiful art that brings a moment of joy to others. It can be mastering a craft and creating objects of lasting quality. It can be being a teacher who makes one student feel seen and understood. It can be creating a business that solves a small but persistent problem for a specific group of people. Purpose is not about the scale of your impact. It is about the sincerity of your intention. It is about aligning who you are with what you do. Another myth is that you only have one true purpose that you must find, like a needle in a haystack. This puts an immense amount of pressure on us and can lead to a state of analysis paralysis. A more helpful way to think about it is that your purpose can evolve and change throughout the seasons of your life. The purpose that drives you in your 20s might be about exploration and building a career. In your 40s, it might shift to focus on family and community. In your 70s, it might become about mentorship and passing on wisdom. The goal is not to find the one final perfect answer, but to live with a sense of purpose today. It is a practice, not a destination. It's a verb, not a noun. But why is this so critical? Why can't we just live a comfortable life like Mark's? The reason is that a life without purpose leaves you profoundly vulnerable. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote a masterpiece called Man's Search for Meaning. In it, he described his experiences in the Nazi concentration camps. He observed that the prisoners who were most likely to survive were not necessarily the physically strongest, but those who held on to a sense of meaning, a reason to live. It might have been the hope of being reunited with a loved one, a piece of scientific work they needed to finish, or a deep sense of faith. This purpose, this why, gave them an internal strength that allowed them to endure suffering that would otherwise be unbearable. Frankl famously wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how." This is the profound gift of purpose. It builds a deep and unshakable resilience. When your life has meaning, the inevitable pain of life does not break you. It can even strengthen you. The benefits of a purpose-driven life are not just psychological, they are deeply physiological. Modern science is now confirming what Frankl observed. A growing body of research has shown a powerful link between having a strong sense of purpose and improved physical health and longevity. Studies have found that people with a high sense of purpose have a lower risk of heart attack and stroke. They are more likely to engage in preventative health behaviors like exercise and regular checkups. They even sleep better. In one remarkable study, researchers found that a strong sense of purpose was associated with a significantly lower risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. The mechanism is not fully understood, but it is believed that purpose acts as a powerful buffer against stress, reduces inflammation in the body, and promotes healthier neural pathways. Living with a why is not just good for your soul, it is one of the most powerful forms of preventative medicine you can practice. So we have established what purpose is, what it isn't, and why it is absolutely essential for a deep and fulfilling life. Now we come to the most important part, the how. How do you begin the journey of uncovering or building your own why? This is not a process of sitting in a quiet room and waiting for an epiphany. It is an active and sometimes messy process of excavation, exploration, and experimentation. It requires courage, curiosity, and a willingness to listen to the quieter signals of your own heart. We're going to walk through a three-step process designed to help you do just that. The first step is the retrospective, mining your past for clues. Your life experiences, both good and bad, have already left you a trail of breadcrumbs leading toward your purpose. You just need to learn how to read them. This step is about looking backward to find the recurring themes and patterns that reveal what truly animates you. For this, you will need your notebook and some quiet, reflective time. We will use 3 distinct exercises to excavate these clues. The first exercise is called Mapping Your Peak Experiences. I want you to think back over your entire life, from childhood to the present day. Identify 5 to 7 moments when you felt truly, deeply alive. These are not necessarily the moments you were happiest in a simple, smiling way. These are the moments you felt most engaged, most fulfilled, most useful, most in a state of flow, moments when time seemed to disappear. It could be the time you finally solved a difficult math problem, the time you coached a kid's soccer team to a small victory, the time you organized a surprise party for a friend, the time you were lost in creating a piece of art, or the time you had a profound conversation that changed your perspective. Write down each of these peak experiences in as much detail as you can. For each one, answer these questions. What were you doing? Who were you with? What specific role were you playing? What skills were you using? Now here is the most important part. Look across all your stories. What are the common threads? What are the recurring themes? Perhaps you'll notice that in most of your peak moments you were teaching or mentoring someone, or maybe the theme is about bringing order out of chaos, or perhaps it's about creating beauty or fostering community or solving complex problems. These themes are a direct reflection of your core, animating drivers. This is the first layer of clues. The second exercise in our retrospective is revisiting your childhood passions. I want you to travel back in time to when you were a child, between the ages of 7 and 14. This is a magical period before your true nature was overly conditioned by the expectations of parents, teachers, and society. Before you started asking, what is a sensible career path? You were simply drawn to things for the pure joy of them. Ask yourself, what did I love to do? What was I endlessly curious about? What kinds of problems did I enjoy solving? Did you spend hours building intricate Lego cities? Did you love taking apart old radios to see how they worked? Did you write stories and create imaginary worlds? Did you organize all the neighborhood kids into elaborate games? Were you constantly asking why? These childhood fascinations are not trivial. They are often the purest expression of your innate talents and inclinations. That little boy who loved building Lego cities might have a purpose related to architecture, urban planning, or system design. The little girl who loved organizing the neighborhood kids might have a purpose related to leadership, community building, or project management. Make a list of these childhood passions and curiosities. Don't judge them, just capture them. They contain a vital piece of your purpose puzzle. The third and final retrospective exercise is following your frustration. This may seem counterintuitive, but your purpose is often hidden on the other side of your pain. I want you to ask yourself a different set of questions. What makes you angry? What breaks your heart? What injustice in the world, in your country, in your community, or in your industry makes you pound your fist on the table and say, "This is not right. Someone has to do something about this"? Pay close attention to these feelings. Your anger and your heartbreak are not random. They are signals from your deepest self that one of your core values is being violated. If you are infuriated by the way animals are treated, your purpose may be connected to animal welfare. If you are heartbroken by the loneliness you see among the elderly, your purpose may be connected to serving that community. If you are frustrated by the inefficiency and lack of creativity in your workplace, your purpose might be to become a leader who builds a better culture. Often, your purpose is not to find a life free from problems, but to find the one problem you are uniquely suited and motivated to solve. Your greatest frustration can be the signpost pointing toward your greatest contribution. Write down a list of these sacred frustrations. This is the fuel for a purpose-driven life. Now that we have mined your past, we move to the second step, the introspective. Designing your future with Ikigai. Ikigai is a Japanese concept that roughly translates to a reason for being. It provides a beautiful and comprehensive framework for bringing together the different elements of purpose into a cohesive whole. It is often represented as a Venn diagram with 4 overlapping circles. Your Ikigai is found at the intersection of all 4. Let's explore each of these circles in depth. The first circle is what you love. This connects directly to the clues we uncovered in the retrospective. This is about your passions, your interests, and your curiosities. What activities make you lose track of time? What subjects could you read about for hours on end without getting bored? If you had a completely free Saturday with no obligations, how would you joyfully spend it? Don't censor yourself here. It doesn't matter if it seems productive or not. It could be playing the guitar, hiking in nature, cooking elaborate meals, having deep philosophical conversations, or organizing your closet. Make a long, unfiltered list of everything you genuinely love to do. The second circle is what you are good at. This is about your skills, your talents, and your abilities. This is not just about what you were born with. It's also about the skills you have worked hard to develop. What do people naturally come to you for help with? Are you the person everyone asks to proofread an important email? Are you the one who can calm a crying baby? Are you the one who can fix a broken computer? Are you a great listener? Are you a skilled planner? Make a comprehensive list of your skills. Include both hard skills, like writing code or speaking a foreign language, and soft skills like empathy, communication, and leadership. Don't be humble. This is a private inventory of your strengths. The third circle is what the world needs. This connects directly to the following your frustration exercise. The world here doesn't have to mean all 7 billion people on the planet. It can be your family. It can be your local community. It can be a specific group of people you feel connected to. It can be a particular ecosystem. What problems do you see that need solving? What pain points exist? What could make people's lives easier, better, or more beautiful? Is there a need for more kindness, more clarity, more efficiency, more connection? Look at the world through the lens of a helper. What contribution is needed? List the needs that you feel a personal pull toward. The fourth and final circle is what you can be paid for. This is the practical element that grounds your purpose in the real world. This is about creating a sustainable way to offer your gifts. How can the intersection of what you love and what you're good at be translated into a service or a product that provides value to others? This doesn't necessarily have to be a traditional 9-to-5 job. It could be a freelance career, a small business, a side hustle, or even a non-profit venture. How can you create a flow of energy, which includes money, that allows you to continue doing the work? Brainstorm the potential economic models for your skills and passions. Now, take a long look at your 4 lists. The magic happens in the overlaps. The intersection of what you love and what you're good at is your passion. The intersection of what you love and what the world needs is your mission. The intersection of what you're good at and what you can be paid for is your profession. And the intersection of what the world needs and what you can be paid for is your vocation. Many people live their lives in one of these intersections and feel a sense of partial fulfillment. The person living in their passion might be a starving artist, happy but poor. The person in their profession might be a highly skilled but bored corporate lawyer. The person in their vocation might be a social worker who feels fulfilled but is on the brink of burnout. Your ikigai, your reason for being, is found in that sweet spot in the very center, where all 4 circles overlap. It is the place where your greatest personal joy meets your unique ability and the world's deep needs, in a way that is sustainable. Use this framework to look for the golden threads that run through all 4 of your lists. This is the blueprint for a purpose-built life. We have looked back and we have looked inward. Now we come to the final and most crucial step, the experimental, taking your purpose for a test drive. A purpose is not something you can figure out entirely in your head or on a piece of paper. You can have a beautiful blueprint, but you don't know if the house is livable until you start building it. Clarity does not come from thought. It comes from action. You must take your ideas about your purpose and test them in the real world. This final step is about moving from contemplation to experimentation. Your first action is to create what I call a curiosity project. Look at your Ikigai worksheet and identify 1 or 2 areas that seem particularly promising and exciting. Now, your task is to create a small, low-stakes project to explore that area. This is not about quitting your job and making a dramatic life change. It is about gathering data. If you think your purpose might be related to teaching, your curiosity project could be to volunteer to tutor a student for 1 hour a week. If you think it might be related to entrepreneurship, your project could be to create a simple landing page for a business idea and see if anyone is interested. If you think it might be related to writing, your project is to write 1 500-word blog post. The project should be small enough that you can start it this week. The goal is not to succeed or fail. The goal is to learn. You are a scientist, and your potential purpose is your hypothesis. The curiosity project is your experiment. As you conduct your experiment, your only job is to pay attention to the feedback you receive, both from the world and from your own body. After you engage in your project, ask yourself a series of diagnostic questions. How did that feel? Did it give me energy or did it drain me? Did I feel a sense of engagement and flow? Did I feel like I was good at it? Did it feel meaningful? This internal feedback is your most reliable guide. You might discover that your hypothesis was wrong. You thought you wanted to be a teacher, but you found tutoring to be incredibly draining. This is not a failure. This is a massive success. You have just gathered an invaluable piece of data that will save you years of heading down the wrong path. You can now cross that off your list and formulate a new hypothesis. Or you might discover that your hypothesis was right. You loved the experience of tutoring. It lit you up. Now you have a positive data point. Your next step is to design a slightly bigger experiment. Maybe you volunteer to teach a one-off workshop at the local community center. You are following the energy, taking small iterative steps, and letting your actions guide you toward clarity. This is the true path to finding your why. It is a dance between reflection and action. You look back at your life to find the clues. You look inward to create a map, and then you step out into the world to see if the map is accurate. You follow your curiosity. You test your hypotheses. You pay attention to what gives you energy and what feels meaningful. You let go of the need to have it all figured out. You embrace the journey of discovery. Your purpose is not a destination you arrive at one day. It is the path you walk every day when your actions are aligned with your deepest sense of self. It is the feeling Eleanor has when she plunges her hands into the soil of the garden she built. It is the quiet, powerful knowledge that your life, with all its struggles and all its joys, matters. Find your why, and you will be able to bear almost any How? Chapter 8. The Gift of Failure. How setbacks pave the road to success. Let's begin with a story from the world of invention. In the late 1960s, a scientist named Spencer Silver, working at the company 3M, was trying to create a super strong, powerful adhesive for the aerospace industry. He was trying to invent the stickiest glue the world had ever seen, and by that standard, he failed, spectacularly. What he ended up creating was the exact opposite, a very weak, low-tack adhesive. The glue was just sticky enough to hold two pieces of paper together, but weak enough that they could be pulled apart without tearing the paper. It was a peculiar, and by all accounts, useless invention. It was a failure. For years, Silver's solution without a problem was a running joke at 3M. He tried to get other departments interested, but no one saw any value in a glue that barely stuck. The invention was shelved, a testament to a well-intentioned but misguided effort. Years later, another 3M employee named Art Fry was singing in his church choir. He had a recurring, frustrating problem. He used small slips of paper to mark the hymns in his hymnal, but they would always fall out when he stood up, causing him to lose his place. He needed a bookmark that would stick to the page without damaging it. Suddenly, his mind flashed to his colleague Spencer Silver's failed invention, that uselessly weak glue. In a moment of insight, Fry realized he had found the problem for Silver's solution. He applied a small amount of the weak adhesive to his paper bookmarks. They stayed in place perfectly. They could be removed without a trace. The Post-it note was born. That little yellow square, an indispensable tool in offices and homes around the world, was not the product of a direct line to success. It was born from the ashes of a complete and utter failure. It exists only because a failed glue was seen not as an ending, but as an interesting, unexpected result. This story perfectly illustrates the central theme of this chapter, a concept that is perhaps the most difficult, yet most crucial for a life of growth and achievement. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is an integral, necessary, and often beautiful part of it. We live in a society that is terrified of failure. From our earliest days in school, we are trained to believe that mistakes are bad, that getting the wrong answer is a sign of stupidity, and that the goal is to achieve a perfect, unblemished record. We are taught to color inside the lines, to follow the instructions, and to avoid risk. This conditioning creates a deep and paralyzing fear of failure that follows us into adulthood. It is the voice of the inner critic we met in Chapter 4, the voice that whispers, "Don't even try. You might not be good enough. You might look foolish." This fear is the single greatest killer of dreams, innovation, and progress. It keeps us trapped in our comfort zones, choosing the safety of the known over the vast potential of the unknown. This chapter is about dismantling that fear. It is about performing a radical and revolutionary reframing of what it means to fail. It is about learning to see failure not as a source of shame, but as a source of data, a navigation tool, and the non-negotiable price of admission for a life of courage and purpose. To understand how to do this, we must first understand why failure hurts so much. The pain of failure is not just about the practical consequences, like losing money or not getting a promotion. The pain is much deeper and more personal than that. It strikes at the very core of our sense of self-worth. The reason for this goes back to our discussion of mindsets in Chapter 1. If you are operating from a fixed mindset, the belief that your intelligence and abilities are static, unchangeable traits, then every single task becomes a test. A performance becomes a measure of your innate worth. In this framework, failure is not just an event, it is a verdict. When you fail, you don't think my strategy was flawed. You think, I am a flaw. The failure of the action becomes the identity of the person. I failed, therefore I am a failure. This is why it feels so catastrophic. It's a direct attack on your ego, your identity, and your place in the world. This feeling is amplified by the powerful emotion of shame. The brilliant researcher Brené Brown draws a critical distinction between guilt and shame. Guilt is the feeling, I did something bad. Shame is the feeling, I am bad. Guilt is focused on the behavior, and it can actually be a productive emotion, motivating us to apologize or make amends. Shame, however, is focused on the self. It's a deeply painful feeling of being flawed and unworthy of belonging. Failure is one of the biggest shame triggers there is. It makes us feel exposed and inadequate, and our primal instinct is to hide, to withdraw, and to never take a risk like that again. We become so afraid of experiencing that painful feeling of shame that we would rather forfeit the chance of great success than risk the possibility of any failure. Our goal is to sever this toxic link between failure and identity. We must shift our entire mental model. A person with a growth mindset understands that their abilities are not fixed. They can learn, grow, and improve through effort and experience. In this framework, failure is not a verdict on their identity. It is simply a necessary part of the learning process. It is not a sign of stupidity. It is the sign of a courageous attempt. A baby learning to walk does not have a concept of failure. It falls down hundreds of times. It stumbles, it wobbles, it collapses. But it never thinks, I guess walking just isn't for me. I'm a failure at this. It simply treats each fall as a piece of data. It learns about balance, about gravity, about the placement of its feet. Each failure is an essential lesson that brings it one step closer to success. We are all born with this growth mindset toward failure, but our social conditioning teaches us to be afraid. Our work is to unlearn that fear and to reclaim the fearless, experimental spirit of that learning toddler. The first step in this radical reframing is to start thinking of failure as data. This is perhaps the most powerful mindset shift you can make. An outcome you did not intend is not a failure. It is simply a piece of information. That's it. You are a scientist, and your life is your laboratory. Every action you take is an experiment. You have a hypothesis. I believe that if I launch this new marketing campaign, it will increase sales. You run the experiment. The campaign runs for a month. You look at the results. Sales did not increase. From a fixed mindset perspective, this is a failure. But from a scientific growth mindset perspective, it is simply data. The data has shown you that your initial hypothesis was incorrect. This is not bad news. It is incredibly valuable news. You have just learned something crucial about what your customers don't respond to. This new data allows you to formulate a new, more intelligent hypothesis. You have not failed. You have learned. The only true failure is the experiment from which you learn nothing. Think of the inventor Thomas Edison and his legendary quest to create a commercially viable electric light bulb. He famously tested thousands of different materials for the filament. A reporter once asked him, "How did it feel to fail 1,000 times?" Edison's reply is a masterclass in the growth mindset. He said, "I have not failed 1,000 times, I have not failed once. I have succeeded in proving that those 1,000 ways will not work. When I have eliminated all the ways that will not work, I will find the way that will work." He did not see his attempts as failures, he saw them as successful discoveries of what not to do. He understood that every no was a step on the path to yes. This is the mindset you must cultivate. Every setback, every rejection, every plan that goes awry is simply a new piece of data for your laboratory. Your job is not to avoid this data, but to actively seek it out, to analyze it, and to use it to inform your next experiment. A second way to reframe failure is to see it as a navigation tool. Imagine you are the captain of a ship sailing from Los Angeles to Tokyo. You set your course, but you know that winds, currents, and storms will constantly be pushing you off that perfect straight line. Your journey is not a matter of setting the course once and hoping for the best. It is a process of constant, vigilant navigation. Your instruments will tell you when you are off course. Is that feedback a failure? Of course not. It is essential information that allows you to make a small correction to the rudder and get back on track. A life without setbacks is like trying to sail that ship with no instruments. You would have no idea where you are or where you're going. Failure is the feedback mechanism that tells you when you are off course. A rejection from a potential client is feedback that your pitch needs to be refined. A product that doesn't sell is feedback that you haven't understood your market's needs. A difficult conversation with your partner is feedback that your communication skills need work. These are not judgments on your worth. They are the navigational beacons guiding you toward your destination. You should not fear this feedback. You should welcome it. Finally, we must learn to see failure as the unavoidable price of ambition. The only way to live a life completely free of failure is to never attempt anything new, challenging, or meaningful. If you are not failing, it is a sign that you are playing it too safe. You are living so far inside your comfort zone that you are not growing. Failure and ambition are two sides of the same coin. You cannot have one without the other. Every great artist has a studio full of canvases they have painted over. Every great writer has a drawer full of rejected manuscripts. Every great entrepreneur has a history of ideas that went nowhere. We see their final, polished success, but we don't see the mountains of failure they had to climb to get there. Michael Jordan, arguably the greatest basketball player of all time, once said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." He understood this principle at a cellular level. He knew that greatness was not about avoiding failure, but about having the courage to take the shot, knowing that you might miss. You must decide, do you want a life of comfort, safety, and predictability, or do you want a life of growth, courage, and meaning? If you choose the latter, you are also choosing to fail. It is part of the package, so how do we move from understanding this intellectually to embodying it in our daily lives? We need a practical toolkit for building our resilience muscle, for training ourselves to respond to failure, not with shame, but with curiosity and courage. This involves preparing for failure, responding to it in the moment, and learning from it after the fact. The first tool is a proactive strategy called the pre-mortem. This is a concept developed by psychologist Gary Klein that has been widely adopted by high-performing teams in business and technology. It's a brilliantly simple and effective way to prepare for failure before you even begin. Here is how it works. Before you start any significant new project, a business launch, a job application, a difficult conversation, you gather your team, or just yourself, and you engage in a thought experiment. You imagine that it is 6 months in the future, and the project has failed completely. It has been an unmitigated disaster. Now, from that imagined future, you look back and you write down every single reason why it failed. We failed because our marketing message was unclear. We failed because we ran out of money. We failed because a key team member quit. We failed because we didn't understand our customers' needs. By doing this, you are detaching from the ego-driven need for the project to succeed and are instead engaging in a clear-eyed assessment of the potential risks. This exercise does two powerful things. First, it allows you to anticipate many of the potential roadblocks and create contingency plans to mitigate them, significantly increasing your actual chances of success. Second, it psychologically inoculates you against the shock of failure. You have already visited a future where you have failed. You have looked it in the eye. This makes the possibility of real-world setbacks less terrifying and easier to handle if they do occur. You have replaced fear of the unknown with a strategic plan. The second tool is your failure first aid kit. This is for what to do in the immediate aftermath of a setback, when the emotional sting is most acute. The first step is to practice the self-compassion we discussed in Chapter 4. Acknowledge the feeling without judgment. You can say to yourself, "This is really disappointing. It's okay to feel hurt right now." Place a hand on your heart and offer yourself the same kindness you would offer a good friend. The goal is not to suppress the emotion, but to experience it without letting it spiral into shame. The second step is to consciously separate the facts from the story. The fact is the objective, neutral reality of what happened. I did not get the promotion. The story is the narrative your inner critic immediately begins to spin. I didn't get the promotion because I'm not good enough, my boss hates me, and I'll be stuck in this job forever. This story is almost always a catastrophic exaggeration. Your job is to gently but firmly bring yourself back to the facts. Write them down if you need to. Fact: the presentation did not go as planned. Story: I am a terrible public speaker, and I've humiliated myself in front of everyone. By creating this separation, you stop the emotional hijacking and create a space for a more rational and constructive response. Once the initial emotional storm has passed, it is time to use the third and most important tool, the post-mortem, or the art of learning from failure. This is the process of extracting the data, of finding the gift in the setback. This should be a structured, non-judgmental debrief. You can do this in a journal by answering 3 simple but powerful questions. What happened? Why did it happen? And how will I use this? First, what happened? Describe the event as objectively as possible, like a journalist reporting a story. Stick to the facts. I launched the product on Monday. By Friday, we had only made 10 sales, far short of our goal of 100. Avoid any shaming language like, I stupidly launched the product, or we had a pathetic 10 sales. Just the facts. Second, why did it happen? This is the analysis phase. Dig deep to understand the root causes. What were the assumptions I made that turned out to be wrong? What part of the process went well? What part broke down? What was within my control and what was outside of my control? This is not about assigning blame. It is about understanding the mechanics of the outcome. For example, my assumption that people would understand the product from the website alone was wrong. The part that went well was the technical build of the product. The part that broke down was the marketing communication. Third, and most crucially, how will I use this? This is where you turn the lesson into a future action plan. What is the single most important lesson I can take away from this? What specific skill do I need to develop? What will I do differently the next time I face a similar situation? For example, the key lesson is that I need to get direct customer feedback much earlier in the process. The skill I need to develop is how to conduct effective user interviews. Next time I will build a simple prototype and talk to 20 potential customers before I write a single line of code. This structured process transforms a painful failure into a priceless education. You are not just recovering from failure, you are actively harvesting its wisdom. Now we come to our capstone exercise, a project that will help you integrate this new mindset toward failure at the deepest level. It is called the failure resume. We all have a regular resume, a curated document that lists all our successes, our achievements, and our victories. The failure resume is the opposite. It is a private document where you list your greatest failures and setbacks. I want you to take some time with this. Go through your life decade by decade. List the academic failures, the career missteps, the business ventures that went bankrupt, the sports teams you were cut from, the personal relationships that ended. Be as honest and comprehensive as you can. But you are not just going to list the failures. That would just be an exercise in self-flagellation. For each failure you list, you are going to write down 2 other things. First, you are going to write down the most important lesson that failure taught you. Getting fired from that first job taught me the importance of humility and being a team player. That failed restaurant taught me everything I know about cash flow management. That painful breakup taught me what I truly need in a partner and forced me to develop my own emotional resilience. Second, you are going to try to connect the dots. You are going to look for ways in which the lesson from one failure directly contributed to a later success. You might realize that the public speaking skills you were forced to learn after a disastrous presentation were the very skills that allowed you to nail a crucial investor pitch 5 years later. You might see that the humility you learned from being fired made you a much better and more compassionate leader in your next role. Creating this document is a transformative experience. It will show you, in black and white, that the path to your greatest successes was paved with the rubble of your biggest failures. It will prove to you that your setbacks were not obstacles to your growth. They were the very engine of your growth. A life lived to the fullest is not a life without failure. It is a life rich with failure. It is a life of courageous attempts, of bold experiments, and of magnificent instructive flops. It is about choosing to live in the arena, to get dusty and dirty, to risk falling on your face rather than sitting safely in the stands, criticizing those who are brave enough to try. So I invite you to make a new vow to yourself. Vow to fail more. Vow to take the shot. Vow to launch the project. Vow to have the conversation. And when you stumble, when you fall, when you fail, as you inevitably will, I want you to remember the story of the Post-it note. I want you to remember Edison's thousands of filaments. And I want you to treat it not as a verdict, but as a gift. A gift of data, a gift of navigation, and a gift of wisdom that you could have earned in no other way. This is the alchemy of resilience. This is how you turn your greatest setbacks into your greatest strengths. Chapter 9. Master your focus. Thriving in a world of distraction. Let us begin with a day in the life of a woman we will call Emily. Emily is a talented architect, a creative and intelligent individual with a genuine passion for her work. Today is an important day. She has a critical deadline for a design proposal at the end of the week, and she has blocked out the entire day to make significant progress. This is her focus day. She sits down at her desk at 9 in the morning with a fresh cup of coffee and a feeling of determination. She opens the complex design software on her computer. Before she begins, she thinks, "I'll just quickly check my email to clear the decks." The inbox contains a few routine messages, but also a newsletter from an architectural journal. The headline is intriguing. 10 revolutionary building materials of the next decade. Curiosity piqued, she clicks the link. The article is fascinating. It mentions a new type of self-healing concrete, which leads her down a rabbit hole of a dozen browser tabs, watching videos of its application and reading technical specifications. She glances at the clock. It's 9:45. 45 minutes have evaporated. A little annoyed with herself, she closes the tabs and returns to her design software. Just as she starts to immerse herself in the project, her phone buzzes on the desk. A notification from a social media app. A friend has tagged her in a photo from a party over the weekend. She picks up the phone. The photo is nice. She leaves a comment. While she's there, she decides to do a quick scroll through her feed. She sees an argument about politics, a video of a cat playing a tiny piano, an ad for a vacation she can't afford. Each scroll is a tiny hit of novelty, a small jolt to her brain. She looks up again. It is now 10:30, an hour and a half into her focus day, and she has done approximately 0 minutes of focused work. She puts her phone on silent and places it face down on the desk with renewed resolve. She manages to work for about 15 minutes, finally getting into a state of flow, her mind beginning to wrap around the complex spatial problems of her design. Then, an email notification pops up in the corner of her computer screen. It's from her boss, with the subject line, "Quick question." Her focus is shattered instantly. Her mind starts racing. Is it urgent? Is he unhappy with something? The anxiety of the unknown is too much to bear. She opens the email. The question is minor, something that could have easily waited. But now her train of thought is completely derailed. Getting back to that state of deep concentration she had for a few brief minutes feels like trying to catch smoke in her hands. The rest of Emily's day unfolds in this same fragmented, fractured pattern. She is constantly switching between her design work, her email, team chat messages, and just one more quick look at her phone. She is busy all day. She feels exhausted, stressed, and pulled in 100 different directions. By 5 o'clock, she looks back at her design proposal. She has made some progress, but it is shallow, disjointed, and far less than she had planned. She feels a deep sense of frustration and disappointment in herself. Why can't I just focus? She wonders. What is wrong with my brain? Emily's experience is not unique. It is the default state of the modern knowledge worker. Her problem is not a personal failure of willpower or discipline. Her problem is that she is a human being with a normal, evolutionary honed brain, trying to function in an environment that is expertly and intentionally designed to tear her attention to shreds. This chapter is about understanding the war that is being waged for your attention and giving you the practical, battle-tested strategies you need to fight back and win. Mastering your focus is not a soft skill for a calmer life. In the 21st century economy, it is the fundamental superpower that will determine the quality of your work and the depth of your fulfillment. To win this war, you must first understand your enemy. The enemy is not your phone. The enemy is not the internet. The enemy is a vast, powerful, and trillion-dollar ecosystem known as the attention economy. In this economy, your attention is the commodity. It is the oil of the digital age. Companies like social media platforms, news outlets, and streaming services are locked in a zero-sum game for your finite waking hours. Their business model depends on one thing: capturing and holding as much of your attention as possible so they can sell it to advertisers. To achieve this, they have hired the brightest minds in psychology, neuroscience, and behavioral economics to engineer their products to be as addictive as possible. They are not creating neutral tools. They are designing slot machines for your mind. Let's look under the hood. The mechanism they exploit is a powerful neurotransmitter in your brain called dopamine. Dopamine is often misunderstood as the pleasure chemical, but that's not quite right. Dopamine is the motivation chemical. It is what drives you to seek out rewards. It's the chemical of wanting, of anticipation. Our brains are wired to release dopamine in response to novelty and unpredictability, because in our evolutionary past, a novel sight or sound could signal a potential threat or a potential reward, like a predator or a source of food. The engineers of the attention economy have harnessed this ancient survival circuit. A social media feed is a bottomless scroll of novelty. Each pull down to refresh action is like pulling the lever on a slot machine. You don't know what you're going to get. It could be a boring update, or it could be a juicy piece of gossip, a like on your photo, or an interesting video. This unpredictability, this variable reward schedule, is the most addictive pattern known to neuroscience. It's what keeps a gambler glued to a slot machine, and it's what keeps you glued to your phone. The notifications, the red dots, the pings, the buzzes, are the summoning bells for this slot machine. They are engineered to create a sense of urgency and social obligation. A red dot on an app icon is a trigger for what psychologists call a fear of missing out, or FOMO. Your brain interprets it as a sign that there is a potential social reward waiting for you, and it becomes incredibly difficult to resist the urge to check it. The problem is that every time you give in to one of these distractions, every time you switch your attention from your primary task to check that notification, you pay a heavy neurological price. This price is a concept called attention residue. When you switch from a complex task, like Emily's design work, to a shallow task like reading an email, your brain doesn't make a clean, instantaneous switch. For many minutes after you've returned to your primary task, a residue of your attention remains stuck on the thing you just looked at. You're still thinking about the email, the social media post, the news headline. This residue clogs your cognitive pipes, making it impossible to achieve the state of intense, single-minded focus required for high-quality work. Even a quick 2-second glance at your inbox can leave an attention residue that degrades your performance for the next 10 to 15 minutes. This brings us to the great myth of our age, the myth of multitasking. Many people, especially in busy, demanding jobs, wear multitasking as a badge of honor. They pride themselves on their ability to juggle 5 things at once. But the brutal truth, confirmed by decades of neuroscience research, is that multitasking, as we commonly think of it, is a biological impossibility. The human brain cannot focus on 2 cognitively demanding tasks at the same time. It's not like having 2 separate processors. It's like having one processor that is trying to run 2 demanding programs at once. What we are actually doing when we think we are multitasking is something called task switching. We are rapidly switching our attention back and forth between different tasks, and every single switch comes with a significant cognitive cost. It takes time and mental energy for your brain to disengage from one task, load the context of the new task, and then re-engage. Studies have shown that this constant switching can reduce your productivity by as much as 40%. It also leads to a higher rate of errors, increased stress levels, and mental exhaustion. The person who is constantly checking their email while trying to write a report is not being more efficient. They are ensuring that both the emails they write and the report they produce will be of lower quality, and they are burning out their brain in the process. Emily's day of constant distraction wasn't just unproductive, it was neurologically exhausting. The antidote to this state of fractured, shallow busyness is a concept championed by the computer science professor and author Cal Newport. He calls it deep work. Deep work is the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. It is the state in which you produce your highest quality work, learn difficult things quickly, and push your abilities to their limit. Think of a master craftsman in his workshop, a scientist on the verge of a breakthrough, or a writer lost in the world of their novel. This is deep work. It is a state of flow, of complete immersion, where the rest of the world seems to fall away. It is in this state that true value is created. Newport contrasts this with shallow work, Shallow work consists of non-cognitively demanding, logistical-style tasks that are often performed while distracted. Answering emails, attending status update meetings, scheduling calls, posting on social media. These are all examples of shallow work. They are necessary parts of most jobs, but they do not create significant new value. They are the kinds of tasks that anyone with a minimal amount of training could perform. Here is the critical insight. In our current economy, the demand for shallow work is constant and visible, while the necessity of deep work is often hidden. Your inbox is always full, demanding your attention. Your chat app is always pinging. It is easy to spend your entire day in a flurry of shallow reactive activity and feel busy and productive. But busyness is not a proxy for progress. In fact, an overabundance of shallow work is the enemy of meaningful accomplishment. The great irony is that as the world becomes more distracted, the ability to engage in deep work is becoming increasingly rare. And because it is becoming rarer, it is also becoming exponentially more valuable. The people who will thrive in the 21st century are not the ones who are best at responding to emails quickly. They are the ones who can shut out the noise, cultivate intense focus, and produce work of exceptional quality and creativity. Your ability to perform deep work is your competitive advantage. Mastering your focus is not just about feeling better, it's about securing your future. So how do we do it? How do we transition from a life of frantic, shallow distraction like Emily's to one of focused, deep accomplishment? It requires a conscious and deliberate restructuring of your workday and your mindset. It is not about finding more willpower. It is about building better systems. We are going to explore a suite of powerful, actionable strategies that you can use to build your own fortress of focus. The first and most foundational strategy is time blocking. A to-do list is a good start, but it is a weak tool against the forces of distraction. It lists what you need to do, but it doesn't say when or where you will do it. Time blocking is the practice of giving every minute of your day a job. You don't just have a list of tasks, you have a concrete schedule for when you will work on them. You take out your calendar and you schedule your tasks as if they were important appointments. From 9 to 10:30, work on design proposal. From 10:30 to 11, respond to emails. From 11 to noon, meeting with client. This practice is powerful for several reasons. First, it transforms your intention into a concrete plan. Second, it forces you to be realistic about how much you can actually get done in a day. Third, and most importantly, it allows you to proactively carve out and protect time for your most important work. The most crucial part of time blocking is to schedule dedicated recurring blocks for deep work. These are the sacred, non-negotiable appointments with your most important projects. For Emily, this would mean putting a 90-minute block on her calendar every single morning from 9 to 10:30 labeled Deep Work Project Alpha. During this block, all distractions are forbidden. No email, no phone, no social media. It is an unbreakable commitment to single-minded focus. At first, you may only be able to sustain this level of focus for 20 or 30 minutes, that's fine. Like any muscle, your ability to concentrate needs to be trained. Start with a short block and gradually increase the duration as your attention fitness improves. It is far better to have one 90-minute block of pure, uninterrupted deep work than an entire 8-hour day of fragmented, shallow work. The output from that one focused session will often exceed the output of a full day of distraction. A critical companion to time blocking is the shutdown ritual. One of the biggest reasons we feel the need to constantly check our work email in the evenings is that our brains haven't fully disengaged from our workday. We have unfinished loops, unresolved problems, and a nagging feeling that there is something we have forgotten. A shutdown ritual is a short, consistent routine you perform at the end of each workday to signal to your brain that the day is officially over. It can be as simple as a 5-minute process. First, you review your task list and your calendar for the day, ensuring you haven't missed anything urgent. Second, you create a clear, simple plan for what you will work on the next day. This transfers the plan from your head to an external system, freeing up your mental RAM. Finally, you say a consistent phrase out loud, something like, "Shutdown complete." This may sound silly, but it acts as a powerful psychological trigger, giving your brain a clear signal that it can stop thinking about work. This allows you to be truly present in your evenings, which in turn allows you to come back to your work the next day feeling refreshed and recharged. The second strategy is to become a master of environment design. As we learned in the Habits chapter, our environment has a profound impact on our behavior. The path of least resistance is a powerful force. Your goal is to design your physical and digital environments to make focus the path of least resistance and distraction the path of most resistance. Let's start with your physical space. If you can, have a dedicated workspace that is used only for focused work. This creates a powerful psychological association. When you are in that space, your brain knows it's time to focus. Keep this space clean, organized, and free of clutter. A cluttered desk leads to a cluttered mind. If you work in a noisy, open office, noise-canceling headphones are one of the best investments you can make in your productivity. They are the universal sign for do not disturb and create a private bubble of focus. Your phone is the single greatest threat to your focus. The most effective way to deal with it is to make it invisible and inaccessible during your deep work blocks. Putting it on silent and face down on your desk is not enough. The mere sight of your phone can trigger the desire to check it and create attention residue. The best solution is to put it in a different room. Put it in a drawer in your kitchen. Leave it in your car. By adding this layer of physical friction, you make it much less likely that you will mindlessly reach for it. On your computer, the equivalent of this is using website and app blockers. Services like Freedom, Cold Turkey, or Rescue Time allow you to create a list of distracting websites and apps and block yourself from accessing them for a set period of time. This is not about a lack of willpower. It is about recognizing that your willpower is a finite resource. You are creating a digital environment where you don't have to spend your precious mental energy fighting temptation because the temptation has been removed. The final piece of environment design is to perform a radical notification audit. Go through every single app on your phone and your computer and turn off all non-essential notifications. Be ruthless. Do you really need a banner to pop up every time someone likes your photo? Do you need your watch to buzz every time you get an email? The answer is almost always no. You should only allow notifications from actual human beings who need to contact you urgently, such as phone calls or text messages from your inner circle. Everything else is a distraction designed to pull you into an app's ecosystem. This one-time act of turning off notifications is one of the highest leverage things you can do to reclaim your focus. You will be astonished at how much calmer and more in control you feel when you are the one deciding when to engage with your devices, rather than being a Pavlovian dog responding to their constant bells. Our third strategy is about taming internal distractions. Even in a perfectly designed, distraction-free environment, your own mind can be your worst enemy. An uncomfortable feeling, a random memory, or a sudden great idea can pop into your head and derail your focus. The untrained response is to immediately follow that thought down its rabbit hole. The trained response is to acknowledge the thought without letting it take over. One of the most effective techniques for this is the distraction notepad. Keep a physical notepad and a pen on your desk during your deep work sessions. When an internal distraction arises, "Oh, I need to remember to buy milk," or "I should really research that new software," do not act on it. Simply write it down on the notepad. This simple act acknowledges the thought and assures your brain that it will not be forgotten. Once it's on the page, you can gently release it from your mind and return your full attention to the task at hand. You can review your notepad after your deep work block is over. This technique allows you to capture potentially important ideas without sacrificing your focus in the moment. Mindfulness meditation, even just for a few minutes a day, is another powerful tool for taming internal distractions. Meditation is a workout for your attention muscle. The practice is simple. You sit and focus on the sensation of your breath. Inevitably, your mind will wander. The moment you notice that your mind has wandered, you gently, without judgment, guide your attention back to your breath. That moment of noticing and returning is the rep in your mental workout. The more you practice this, the better you become at noticing when your mind has been hijacked by a distracting thought, and the faster you can bring it back to your intended point of focus. Our final strategy is perhaps the most counterintuitive in our hyper-stimulated world. You must embrace the power of strategic boredom. One of the most damaging side effects of our constant access to smartphones is that we have eliminated almost every moment of boredom from our lives. The second we are standing in line, waiting for an elevator, or sitting in traffic, we pull out our phones for a quick hit of stimulation. We have trained our brains to expect and demand constant input. The problem is that boredom is not a state to be avoided. It is a vital ingredient for creativity, problem-solving, and self-reflection. When your brain is not being bombarded with external stimuli, it has the space to make new connections between ideas, to consolidate memories, and to work on difficult problems in the background. Many of our best ideas come to us when we are in the shower, on a long walk, or just staring out a window, moments when we are allowing our minds to be bored. To reclaim this power, you must intentionally schedule time to be without input. Go for a walk without your phone or a podcast, just walk. Let your mind wander where it will. When you are driving, turn off the radio. Experience the silence. Practice waiting in line without pulling out your device. Just stand there and observe the world around you. At first, this will feel incredibly uncomfortable, almost like an addict going through withdrawal. Your brain will scream for a distraction, but if you persist, you will find that you are recalibrating your mind. You are teaching it that it doesn't need constant stimulation. You are building its tolerance for quiet contemplation. This practice will not only enhance your creativity, but will also make it much easier to sustain focus during your deep work blocks, because your brain will no longer be in a state of constant, desperate craving for the next novel input. Mastering your focus is a journey, not a destination. It is a daily practice of building systems, designing your environment, and training your mind. It is about recognizing that the ability to concentrate is not a fixed trait, but a skill that can be cultivated. It is about choosing the deep, challenging, and meaningful life over the shallow, easy, and distracted one. So I challenge you to begin today. Schedule your first 30-minute deep work block. Turn off the notifications on your phone. Put it in another room. Close all the irrelevant tabs on your computer, and for that short period of time, give your full, undivided attention to the one thing that matters most. You will find that in the quiet sanctuary of deep focus, you will not only produce your best work, but you will also reconnect with the most intelligent, creative, and capable version of yourself. Your attention is your most valuable asset. It is time to reclaim it. Chapter 10. Living in Abundance, a new relationship with money and success. Let us begin with the tale of two men, neighbors who live on the same suburban street. We'll call them Tom and Marcus. On paper, their financial lives are remarkably similar. Both are in their mid-40s, both have successful careers in sales, and both earn roughly the same six-figure income. They live in similar houses, drive similar cars, and their children attend the same school. From the outside, you would say they are equally prosperous. But if you could peer into their inner worlds, you would find two completely different universes. Tom lives in a constant, low-grade state of financial anxiety. His internal monologue is a running tally of lack. He worries incessantly about unexpected expenses. When the washing machine breaks, his first thought is, "This is a disaster. I don't know how we'll afford this." He looks at his neighbor's new car with a pang of envy and thinks, "I'll never be able to afford something like that." He scrutinizes every restaurant bill, feeling a knot in his stomach. He is reluctant to invest in himself, whether it's a course to improve his skills or a family vacation to create lasting memories, because he is terrified of his bank account dipping below a certain number. He sees the economy as a dangerous, unpredictable beast in his own financial life, as a fragile structure that could collapse at any moment. He is, in short, living in a state of scarcity. Marcus, on the other hand, lives with a sense of calm and possibility. When his water heater breaks, his first thought is, "Okay, this is an unexpected challenge. Let's figure out the best way to solve this." He sees his neighbor's new car and thinks, "That's great for them. It's inspiring to see people enjoying their success." He enjoys a meal out with his family, feeling gratitude for the ability to share that experience. He willingly invests in courses, travel, and tools that he believes will enrich his life or grow his skills, seeing them not as costs, but as investments in his own potential. He sees the economy as a dynamic system full of opportunities and believes in his own ability to navigate it and create value. He is generous with his time and his money, often tipping extravagantly or helping a friend in need without a second thought. Marcus is living in a state of abundance. The staggering difference between these two men has almost nothing to do with the numbers in their bank accounts. It has everything to do with the mindset through which they view the world. Their financial reality is the same, but their experience of that reality is worlds apart. Tom, despite his comfortable income, feels perpetually poor. Marcus, with the same income, feels consistently wealthy. This chapter is about making the most important financial shift of your life, the shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. This is not about wishful thinking, manifesting checks in the mail, or ignoring the practical realities of money. It is about fundamentally rewiring your relationship with money and success, transforming it from a source of anxiety and limitation into a tool for empowerment, creativity, and joy. This internal shift is the prerequisite for building true, lasting wealth, a wealth that is measured not just in dollars, but in peace of mind. To begin this transformation, we must first perform a deep diagnosis of the scarcity mindset. Where does this pervasive sense of not enough come from? Its roots are deep, woven into our biology, our childhood, and our culture. From an evolutionary perspective, our brains are hardwired for scarcity. For millennia, our ancestors lived in a world of genuine lack, where food, safety, and resources were uncertain. The brain that was best at scanning the environment for threats and potential shortages was the brain that survived. This scarcity scanner is still a core part of our neural architecture. It is constantly on the lookout for what is missing, what could go wrong, and where the next danger might come from. In the modern world, where for many of us basic survival is no longer a daily struggle, this ancient programming often latches onto money as its primary focus. This biological predisposition is then powerfully reinforced by our personal histories. Most of us grew up hearing scarcity-based phrases about money. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. You have to work your fingers to the bone just to get by. These are not just words, they are the building blocks of a belief system. We absorb our parents' anxieties and their financial worldview, and it becomes the unconscious soundtrack to our own lives. If you grew up in a household where money was a constant source of conflict and stress, it is highly likely that you carry that same stress and conflict into your own relationship with money, regardless of how much you are now earning. Finally, our culture bombards us with messages of scarcity every single day. The entire engine of modern consumerism is built on convincing you that you are not enough as you are, and that you are lacking something that can only be purchased. Your car is not new enough, your phone is not smart enough, your clothes are not fashionable enough. At the same time, the curated perfection of social media creates a culture of relentless comparison. We are constantly exposed to the highlight reels of other people's lives, their lavish vacations, their beautiful homes, their perfect families. This triggers our scarcity mindset's most potent weapon, comparison. We look at their apparent abundance and feel a painful sense of our own lack. The scarcity mindset operates on a zero-sum game logic. It believes that there is a finite pie of success and resources, and if someone else gets a big slice, that means there is less for you. This fosters feelings of envy, jealousy, and competition. It traps you in a cycle of looking outside yourself for validation and a sense of worth. Living in this state of scarcity has profound psychological and even physiological consequences. When your brain is in scarcity mode, it triggers a chronic stress response. Your cortisol levels rise, your thinking becomes short-term and reactive. The cognitive load of constant worry actually reduces your mental bandwidth, making you less creative, less able to solve complex problems, and more likely to make poor, fear-based decisions. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because you are afraid of losing money, you are afraid to take calculated risks that could lead to growth. Because you believe opportunities are limited, you fail to see the ones that are right in front of you. The scarcity mindset is a prison of your own making, and it will keep you playing a small, safe, and unfulfilling game your entire life. The escape from this prison is the conscious cultivation of an abundance mindset. So, What is abundance really? Let's be very clear about what it is not. It is not about denying reality. It is not about pretending you can spend money you don't have. It is not a belief that you are entitled to wealth without effort. An abundance mindset is a fundamental shift in your core beliefs about the world and your place in it. It is the deep-seated belief that there is enough for everyone. It is the belief that the world is not a finite pie, but an ever-expanding ocean of possibility. It sees the success of others not as a threat, but as an inspiration, as proof of what is possible. It operates on a positive-sum game logic, believing that we can create value and success together. An abundance mindset believes that opportunities are not limited. They are everywhere, waiting for a creative mind to see them. It believes that you are a creator of value, not just a consumer of resources. Crucially, the abundance mindset understands that true wealth is about so much more than money. It is an abundance of love, of opportunities, of knowledge, of creativity, of time, and of connection. It is the feeling of being rich in life itself. A person with an abundance mindset can feel wealthy even with a modest income, because they are focused on the richness they already possess in their relationships, their health, and their experiences. This is the state in which Marcus, our happy neighbor, lives. He feels wealthy because he is focused on what he has, not what he lacks. This feeling of inner abundance is what paradoxically makes it much easier to create outer financial abundance. Because you are not operating from a place of fear, you are more willing to take smart risks. Because you believe in possibility, you are more likely to see and seize opportunities. Because you are not threatened by the success of others, you are more able to learn from them and collaborate with them. The abundance mindset is not just a nicer way to feel, it is a more strategic and effective way to operate in the world. Now we move from the what and the why to the practical, actionable how. How do you systematically dismantle a lifetime of scarcity conditioning and rewire your brain for abundance? This is not an overnight process, but a dedicated practice. We will explore a set of powerful tools that, when used consistently, will fundamentally change your relationship with money and success. The first and most foundational practice is to embody gratitude. We have touched on this in previous chapters, but here it becomes the cornerstone of our strategy. The scarcity mindset is a habit of the mind that constantly scans for what is missing. Gratitude is the active, conscious practice of scanning for what is present. It is the direct antidote to the poison of scarcity. You cannot simultaneously be in a state of genuine gratitude and a state of anxious lack. They are mutually exclusive mental states. By practicing gratitude, you are literally training your brain to see the abundance that already exists in your life. The practice can be incredibly simple. Every single morning before you get out of bed, or every single evening before you go to sleep, you are going to perform a gratitude audit. Take out your notebook and write down 3 to 5 specific things from the past 24 hours that you are grateful for. The key here is specificity. Don't just write, "I'm grateful for my family." Write, "I'm grateful for the way my daughter laughed when we were reading her bedtime story." Don't just write, "I'm grateful for my house." Write, "I am grateful for the warm, comfortable bed I get to sleep in." The more specific you are, the more you will feel the emotion of gratitude. As you do this consistently, day after day, you will start to notice a remarkable shift. You are strengthening the neural pathways that look for the good. Your brain will get better and better at automatically noticing the small wonders, the simple pleasures, and the hidden blessings of your daily life. You will begin to see that your life right now, in this very moment, is already overflowing with a certain kind of wealth. This feeling of enoughness is the fertile soil in which financial abundance can grow. The second tool is to consciously change your language about money. The words you use, both internally and externally, are not just descriptors of your reality, they are creators of your reality. Your language shapes your beliefs, and your beliefs shape your actions. The language of scarcity is so common that we often don't even notice it. Phrases like, "I'm so broke," "I can't afford that," "That's too expensive," "I'll never be able to save enough." These are not harmless statements of fact. They are affirmations of lack. They are declarations to yourself and to the universe that you are a person for whom there is not enough. Your task is to become a vigilant editor of your own language. When you catch yourself using a scarcity-based phrase, you are going to gently pause and reframe it into the language of abundance and choice. Let's look at some powerful reframes. Instead of "I can't afford that," which is a statement of powerlessness, try "I am choosing to allocate my financial resources differently right now." This is a statement of conscious choice and empowerment. Instead of "I have to go to work," which implies that you are a victim of your circumstances, try "I get to go to my job and create value today." This is a statement of gratitude and opportunity. Instead of "That's way too expensive," which is a judgment based on lack, try "That's not a priority for my spending at the moment," or "I can see the value in that, and I'm creating a plan to be able to afford it in the future." See the difference? The first set of phrases closes down possibility. The second set opens it up. This is not about lying to yourself. It is about telling a more empowered and accurate truth about your agency in your own financial life. The third tool is to fundamentally reframe money as a tool, not a goal. This connects directly to our work in Chapter 2, where we defined our own rich list. For most people trapped in the scarcity mindset, money itself has become the goal. The number in the bank account has become the scoreboard for their self-worth. This is a game you can never win, because there will always be someone with a higher score. It is an endless, soul-crushing pursuit of more. The abundance mindset demotes money from this exalted position. It sees money for what it truly is, a tool. It is a form of energy, a resource that can be used to build the life you truly want. It is a means, not an end. To make this tangible, I want you to perform an exercise called putting your money to work. Take out your notebook and your rich list from Chapter 2. Now, I want you to brainstorm all the ways that money can be a tool to help you bring that rich life into reality. For example, if freedom of time is on your rich list, how can money be a tool for that? It could mean saving enough to start your own business, hiring a virtual assistant to handle administrative tasks, or paying a cleaning service to buy back your weekends. If learning and growth is on your list, money can be a tool to buy books, take courses, or hire a coach. If connection is on your list, money can be a tool to facilitate experiences with loved ones, like a family vacation or a regular dinner out with friends. This exercise shifts your entire focus. You stop asking, "How can I get more money?" And you start asking the much more powerful question, "How can I use the money I have and the money I am creating to build a life that is truly rich in the ways that matter most to me?" Money stops being your master and becomes your faithful employee. Our fourth tool is a powerful antidote to the consumerist disease of more. It is the practice of defining your enough. The scarcity mindset lives in a world of endless, undefined desire. The abundance mindset finds peace and power in clarity. I want you to ask yourself a radical question. How much is enough? How much income would you need to earn to live your ideal life, the one you described in your perfect day exercise, without financial stress? How much money would you need in savings to feel a true sense of security and freedom? Take some time to actually calculate this. Be realistic and specific. This is not an exercise in limitation. It is an exercise in liberation. When you have a clear target for enough, you are freed from the vague, anxious, and endless pursuit of more. It gives you a finish line for the rat race. It allows you to make conscious decisions about your career and your life that are aligned with your values, rather than just endlessly chasing a higher salary. You might discover that you need far less than you thought to live a truly rich life, which can open up a world of new possibilities. The fifth and final tool for rewiring your brain is to embrace the joy of giving. This is perhaps the most profound paradox of abundance. The more you give away, the wealthier you feel. The scarcity mindset is a clenched fist, hoarding its resources for fear of not having enough. The abundance mindset is an open hand, trusting that the flow of energy is circular. When you give, whether it's your time, your knowledge, or your money, you are sending a powerful message to your own subconscious mind. The message is, "I have more than enough." This act of generosity shatters the illusion of lack. It breaks the scarcity mindset's hypnotic spell. Start small. The next time you buy a coffee, buy one for the person in line behind you. The next time you have a great service experience, leave a surprisingly generous tip. Find a cause you believe in and set up a small recurring monthly donation. Volunteer your time at a local shelter. Offer to mentor someone who is just starting out in your field. Notice how you feel after these acts of giving. You will almost certainly feel a sense of expansion, of connection, and of genuine wealth that has nothing to do with the amount you gave. Giving is the ultimate expression of an abundance mindset in action. It is the declaration that you are a channel through which good things can flow, not just a container in which they must be stored. As you begin to cultivate this inner state of abundance, you will find that it becomes much easier to engage in the practical, healthy financial habits that build lasting wealth. A restrictive budget born from a scarcity mindset feels like a prison, but a conscious spending plan born from an abundance mindset feels like an act of empowerment. It's not about what you can't have. It's about joyfully directing your resources toward the things that truly matter. Saving money is no longer a fearful act of hoarding for a rainy day. It becomes an exciting act of paying yourself first, of investing in the abundant future you are creating for yourself. You will start to see your work not as a chore you have to do to survive, but as an opportunity to create value, to solve problems, and to be of service. And when you come from that place of service and value creation, financial success often becomes a natural and effortless byproduct. Your relationship with money is a mirror. It reflects your deepest beliefs about yourself and the world. If you believe the world is a scary place of limitation and lack, your financial life will be a source of stress and anxiety. If you believe the world is a place of infinite possibility and opportunity, your financial life can become a source of creativity, joy, and freedom. The choice is yours. It is a choice you make not once but every single day, with every thought you think and every word you speak. So I ask you to begin today. Notice the abundance that is already all around you. Reframe your language, define your enough, give a little away, and watch as your inner world and then your outer world begins to transform in the most remarkable ways. You are not a victim of your financial circumstances. You are the creator of your financial reality.